The scheduled meeting of the City of New Smyrna Beach Planning and Zoning Board and Land Planning Agency for Monday, September 8th, 2025 may come to order. Please silence all cell phones. Con, can you please call the roll?
Thank you. Member Hodges?
Yes. Here.
Thank you. Member Holvershorn? Holvershorn. Member Yates?
Here.
Member Bean?
Here.
Member Hall?
Here.
Member Cossey? Member Thompson?
Here.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Here. Thank you. City staff, do you have any changes to tonight's agenda?
I do. First, I would like to welcome Jessie Thompson. She is our school board member on the dais here tonight. Ms. Thompson has been appointed by Volusia County School Board and was accepted by our City Commission on November 26, 2024 as a non-voting school board representative to attend meetings at which comprehensive plan amendments and rezonings are considered that would, if approved, increase residential density on a project in review. So thank you for joining us, Ms. Thompson. Welcome.
Thank you.
I do have items, I have two items that will be continued tonight. Item 5A, which is S125, and then also item 5B, which is SP 17-24. Both of these items will be heard at the October P&Z meeting.
Do we need a vote on that, or are we good?
We're good.
Okay, just wanted to check. Thank you.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Approval of minutes. Consider the approval of the Planning and Zoning Board July 7th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. Any discussion, questions by the members of the board? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
A motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Con, could you please call the roll vote?
That was a motion, I'll just let you know, by Mr. Hodges, and a second by Mr. Bean.
Oh, yeah.
Member Yates?
Yes.
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Bean?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes. Thank you. Public participation. In accordance with resolution number 11-89, a 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the Planning and Zoning Board. This is the opportunity to address any item not a part of tonight's agenda. So the floor is yours if anybody would like to come forward and speak on anything not on tonight's agenda. Okay. If you don't mind stating your name and address for the record.
It's Karen.
If you don't mind speaking into the mic.
Karen and Robert Galino.
Okay.
And 452 Old Mission Road, New Smyrna Beach. They're building behind us. And as they're walking by in the developed area, or they didn't start the development yet, but you can see their waste. We have a 6-foot fence, and you see their waste. And so we know we're going to have flooding problems.
We're having flooding now.
We're having flooding now.
It's supposed to be an easement.
If you don't mind speaking into the mic. The
It's
reason
supposed to
being
be
is we got to
an
make sure we can
easement.
hear you.
It's supposed to be an easement between our property and the property behind us. So we're getting there for the utilities. There's no more easement. They took up all the land. And we had got together with the inspectors a couple of months ago, and they guaranteed us there's going to be some kind of water flow going south. There's no water, there's nothing there. It's just grass. And it's all flooded now. We have swamp in our backyard. And we got neighbors here that have the same thing. It's all swamp. And nobody's doing anything about it. They changed contractors. They're doing whatever they want to do. We had those utility poles for the sewers, the drains. They're all gone. The manhole covers that were there, they're all covered up with grass. So what's going on?
So if we have any problem with our sewer system, there is no place to go for that.
They cleaned out the lines. They took all the vents away.
But it's our issue is the flooding now.
Yeah, it's all flooding.
Yeah.
Plus the sewers, down the road with the sewers, what's going to happen? The drains. How do you clean them out?
Thank you. If you don't mind giving your contact information to our
Sure.
clerk?
Okay.
we-
I took pictures, but
Follow
it's
up.
raining so hard, we forgot the pictures home. I was showing you the pictures, and you'll see what I'm talking about. They put grass, they put sod down. That's the way it's gonna,
Well, with your contact information going to staff, they can reach out to you and try to address any issues.
they did a couple months ago.
Okay.
Came in the backyard, and explained everything they're gonna do. They can't
Okay. Thank you for your time. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Cindy Snezak, 512 Yukon. I don't know if this will help for a later agenda item. Didn't even speak to that item, but I wanted to make sure that the planner and the applicant know that pole signs will, the commission's backing off its stance, that pole signs need to be eliminated. So when you get to that item, it may have been submitted at a time when we were going to get rid of them, but we're not going to get rid of them now.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no one else, public participation is closed. And we'll move on to old business, which is going to be it's V-3-25 at 315 Faulkner Street. This is the public hearing for 3 variants house to encroach into the required side yard building setback. City staff, do you have a report?
I do. Hold on one second here while I cue this up. Okay, we have applicant Mark Herwald, 2801 Sunset Drive, New Smyrna Beach, representing property owner Mark Hall, 315 Faulkner Street, New Smyrna Beach, requesting 3 variances. It will extend the existing north wall of the primary structure, which is on the side yard, 8 feet at a 2.1-foot side yard setback. 2, at a carport roof 26 feet in length, 2.1 feet from the front side yard, which is again the north line, and increase the height of a non-conforming structure, existing portion of house 2.1 feet from the side property line. Subject property is located at 315 Faulkner Street, is zoned R4. It's 50 by 145 feet, or 0.166 acres, and is located on the east side of Faulkner Street between Murray Street and Washington Street. If you remember, we initially heard this several months ago, and they were going back to the drawing board a little bit to come up with some new ideas. And basically what we've done, or they've done, is came up with, they've guttered the house, and then they've come up with some exfiltration areas to divert the stormwater away from the neighboring property to the north. Again, this is a survey of the property right now. You're supposed to have a 7.5-foot side yard setback. The house is sitting at 2.1, and as I mentioned, you had a carport and an 8-foot extension at 2.1 feet is what is proposed. This kind of shows you the kind of 8-foot addition that will go on the rear of the existing structure right there. And then this drawing here basically shows you where those little blue areas there where the water is to be diverted to. They have an underground exfiltration system in the front and back, and a surface retention area as well. So this is kind of how the house is right now. This is the section that we propose to be raised. You see it's 2.1 feet from the property line, and the eave sticks out, and then there'd basically be a gutter on that as well. So the fence is roughly the property line. So you're looking at, probably when it comes right down to it, maybe in the foot range before you're at the property line. This is the house from the street. You have a fence, so your carport and would be largely hidden behind that. The house that you see behind the fence there will be raised if approved, and then the house will also extend further back. This is also another picture of it with open, kind of where your carport area will be. And this is kind of what, from the rear, just their kind of sketch at this point, showing what they're proposed. So as you see on the red line there, it will be coming out further that way. At this point, you don't get too much into drawings because you don't know how this will go. So again, here's a drawing from them, kind of raising that existing section 18 inches higher. There are 5 criteria that go for every variance. This is 3 separate variances, but my responses kind of all more or less apply. Special circumstances exist which are peculiar to the applicant's land structure or building and do not generally apply to the neighbor's land structures or buildings in the same district or vicinity. As noted, the house is quite close to the property line, 2.1 feet, which is relatively common in this area as it was developed prior to the establishment of our current land development regulations. That being said, the request is to add an additional 34 feet, 8 foot of house, and a 26 feet of new carport of new structures, 2.1 feet from the side property line. With the gutters, bringing the improvements to 1.6, and it's actually closer than that because you have an eave. Thus, it is accurate that the house itself is a non-conforming structure that dates back almost 80 years, but the new proposed improvements are not because of peculiarity with the house or land. Capturing and diverting the rainwater is an improvement over the original proposal. However, the new proposed improvements are too close to the property line for staff to support, and we do not consider it has been met. 2, strict application of the provisions of this LDR would deprive the applicant of reasonable rights commonly applicable to other properties in the same district or may preclude a benefit to the community in general. I'm going to answer our part, which is the bolded section, and where applicants can be representing his responses to this. So our response to that is the original section of the house is only 624 square feet, and the area proposed to be raised is 378 square feet. So it's a total of 1,002 square feet for the house. It appears if and when the variances are approved and the construction completed, the house will be approximately 1,800 square feet. The proposed carport will add an approximate 260 square feet of additional building coverage on the lot as well. There's also a 768 square foot detached 2-car garage on the rear of the parcel. So approximately 2,828 square foot of building coverage, or 37.7%, which is below the max allowed 40%. There are houses and accessory structures that were built closer to the currently allowed in the older areas of town, such as the subject property. Staff can support allowing the existing section of the house to be raised, but cannot support new construction in this section. The LDR has a provision that allows structures that are 5 foot from a property line to be continued along that line in zoning districts that require a greater setback than 5 foot. So that would be the south property line is allowed to extend less than 5 feet because of that. So in this instance, 2.1 feet is too close for staff to support, as there are other options that can meet the setback requirements, or at the very least not encroach to such an extent. Staff believes this criterion has not been met for the proposed new area to the rear in the carport, but has been met for the raised section. It's already there, it's in the same place, it would simply be raised. C, the special circumstances and conditions exist that do not result from the direct or indirect actions of the present property or past property owners. This criterion shall not be satisfied if the present or past property owner created to any degree the hardship that is the subject of the variance request. While the capturing and diverting of roof runoff is a definite improvement from the original request, again, the proposed improvements are still just too close to the property line. As noted above, the variance request to raise the existing section can be supported. However, the new construction is a direct result of the current property owner. So again, we feel it's been met for the section that's proposed to be raised, but not for the other two, the addition to the rear or the carport. D, the granting of the variance will not cause substantial detriment to the public welfare or impair the purposes and intent of the LDR. Given that the improvements are all proposed behind a fence and won't be visible from the street unless the fence is open, there will be little impact to the public. However, setback requirements are in place to allow people to access and maintain their structures, and a setback of 2.1 feet makes it difficult to maintain the structure. This criterion has not been fully met. E, the granting of the variance will not constitute a grant of special privilege that is denied by this LDR to other land, structures, or buildings. Approving the carport and the new addition would be a grant of special privilege, as there appears to be options available to achieve the intent without encroaching 5.4 feet into the 7.5 foot side yard setback. Therefore, we don't feel that it has been met for all three. We do support raising of the house, and I will mention that Mr. Hall told me before the meeting that he has support of his neighbors, the north and south, for his variance request for all three. So, you have any questions for me?
Any questions of staff? Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to set them up with their presentation here in just 1 second.
Okay.
You're actually going to be, it's up and down here is how you're going to scroll through like that. There's B. You You want to shrink it down a little bit so you can see it better? There you go.
So now we have the applicant before us. If you don't mind introducing yourself.
Yeah, my name is Mark Herwald. I reside at 2801 Sunset Drive, New Smyrna Beach. And I am here supporting Mark Hall. And also, I'm a retired general contractor. Been in the business here for over 30 years. I'm here to support Mark in this endeavor and to go over any of the new contents that we have submitted, mostly sketches and drawings. I would first like to submit these letters from the neighbors, if I could give them to the secretary to pass out.
That's fine.
We didn't have them in time to, got them at the last minute. Okay, all right, I wanted to start, because there's, just, trying to make sure everything's clear. There's three areas which was mentioned previously, and we'll look at Exhibit C on page 28. Is that? Okay, good. Okay, so there's the addition to the 378 square foot area, and that shows that there. Raising the existing 378 square foot area, and a carport covering the existing driveway to include a wheelchair ramp. And this is, what I would refer back to, quite a bit. I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to ask, does anybody have any questions on that sketch? Okay, so the request is for a 5.4 foot north side yard setback variance from the required 7.5 side yard setback to allow an existing block wall to be extended 8 linear feet eastward at the existing 2.1 side yard setback. The 8-foot length of the wall would only exceed 1.6 foot eastward of the adjacent neighbor's home that has the same 2.1 foot side yard setback. That's Exhibit E, page 32.
I think we get the idea from seeing the picture earlier, seeing how close your neighbor's home was, or the neighbor's house was.
It shows the 1.6 foot, that we really, it would only extend eastward of their structure by 1.6 foot. Of course, which was already said, the entire length of the 28-foot north wall would be guttered, including 6-foot box gutter, 4-inch by 6-inch downspouts, underground rain leaders to an underground exfiltration system to manage the water runoff. The 28-foot section of wall would also be built with fire-rated building materials as per code. So if there's any questions on that, we go page 35. There it is. Okay. Okay, then, of course, we'll go to Exhibit C, page 28. Just want to point out, the wall, I think that's the wall section. Oh, then it's H. Yeah, I just want to point out the cross-section. This would be cross-section through the north wall and facing west, with the box gutter. And I just wanted to point out, one of the photos that was shown had a overhang, looked like a 1'6" overhang. Our proposal has no overhang whatsoever. It's just the 6-inch gutter. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about one of the main reasons to keep there's a 12, right now there's a 12-foot, 12.2 foot distance on that 378 square foot area, which is important to keep that length and not, the last meeting, there was some talk about, just demolishing the whole thing and bringing the new building into 7'6". If that were to happen, he wouldn't be able to really use his driveway and to construct a wheelchair ramp. That's kind of one of the drawbacks of starting from scratch and doing demolition. Yeah, anybody have any questions? No.
Any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Am I correct to assume that the new slab is going to be 18 inches off the ground? Because I saw that on there, 18.2.
Yeah, that's what would happen now is.
Right
It
there.
would be a raised, we would keep the concrete slab that's there and do a raised floor to match the existing home. That's what that cross-section shows. Does that answer?
Well, it will right now, but then I'll ask a question later, but I just wanted to be sure that that number is 18 inches.
Yeah. Well,
thank you.
or whatever his house is, we measured it in one area, so I mean, it may be an inch or something different, but
The reason why I'm asking the question, I'll just say it right now. If the house is 18 inches off the ground, and if the building department's here and they'll correct this statement, then you're going to need 18-foot of ramp, and that's almost going to stick out of your carport, and it's going to need to be at least 3 or 4 feet wide. So if you were, the reason that you're going to put this carport on was to get a wheelchair ramp in that area. There's not enough room because the overall dimensions of the garage was 12 feet, if I'm correct. And then you take all 4 of that for your ramp, you only got 8 foot left to put a car in there. So if it was, the whole purpose of this was to build a wheelchair ramp, you don't have the room to do a carport and, with a wheelchair ramp and a car to park on it. Am I assuming correctly?
well, let's take a look at this sketch
Okay.
that we have up. This ramp is an 8-to-1, which it doesn't meet commercial, codes or anything. But for residential, from what my experience is, it'll do.
It won't make it a residential or commercial ramp.
It's the ramp that we propose is 8, the slope is 8-to-1.
Okay.
And I did a sketch with the automobile there and the car doors opening. And so, that's what our proposal is. Not a 20-to-1 or a 12-to-1, but 8-to-1 because it wouldn't fit. That's correct.
It's a quarter per foot.
Pardon me?
It's a quarter per foot.
Yeah.
Any other questions of the applicant at this time? Okay. Do you have anything further for us?
It was just, the sketches I wanted to, well, and also, it's also in our response, but that, Mr. Hall would agree not to enclose this carport in the future as conditions of the variance, and to also maintain a fence between, his neighbor and the carport.
Okay.
if it wasn't already there. As far as our response to the criteria, is there any questions on that?
I have a question. The existing east wall and south wall of what that little build-out is now, that's going to be removed? Because that would be like an interior wall within your total new addition.
Okay, could you ask that again?
The north wall is what's 2.1 feet away.
Yes,
Okay, there's an existing south wall to that, what used to be a porch that now is going to be raised,
yes,
and an existing south wall. They are internal to the overall addition that's going on.
yes,
Are those walls going to be removed in your building plan?
yes. The only walls that would stay is the north and the west wall.
Okay. Second question is, from a layout standpoint, there's multiple ways to get that same amount of square footage while meeting the setbacks. Have the owners considered alternate ways to do this, or this just is the way they really want it to be?
Well, I'm sure that's true, about square footage and doing something else. But, the whole purpose is aging in place. And to be able to pull your car up, get out and use a handicap ramp, I don't know how else you could do that on that site. Considering, what, the way they built the thing in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I might just jump in.
If you don't mind introducing yourself.
Yes, I'm Mark Hall, the applicant, 315 Faulkner, New Smyrna Beach, 32168. I think there's a bit of confusion on this south wall. The existing south wall will remain in place and be extended eastward. And yes, it could be cobbed up and cut in and meet the setback on the south side. There's a, 5.8 inch, 5.8? Yeah, setback now. So we meet what used to be we meet that, but we just wanted to extend that wall flush going down to keep the traditional look of the home and to keep the siding going the same on the south side. And that neighbor doesn't have any objection. She supports the request.
Okay, and what you say is true, but what hits me as I'm looking at it, you're proposing an extension of that wall by 28 feet, I believe, if I'm reading it, and to line up with your existing south wall. You extend that 28 more feet.
It's 20 feet. It's about 19, 20 feet, isn't it, Mark?
26 feet, I'm sorry.
Yeah, on the south side or the north side?
That's the north side. The carport wall is on the north side of the property.
Right, I'm talking the south side where you're 5.8 feet away,
Yes,
the existing house. Your new addition's going to be a total of 28 feet added,
yes,
continuing that wall. And it's 42 feet across the back.
Correct.
Okay. That gives you a certain amount of square footage. If you were, for example, to maintain the south wall siding and continuous without any jobs, maintain that at 5.8 feet, which if I understand it right, for existing structures that are non-conformance with setbacks, 5 foot can be allowed for that. Okay,
That's
so you're
what we're
kind of
calling the convention, right?
right. So that's kind of okay there. If that wall was extended back instead of 28 feet, 32 feet, and then going back towards the north, 36 feet instead of 42 feet, you get essentially the same square footage. You end up with a little jog in the northeast corner. If you kept the 2.1 of your existing house, it jogs over 5 or 6 feet, okay? And you solve all the setbacks for your main building. And the question I'm asking, and that's just one alternative, I'm sure an architect will come up with multiple others. Have they been considered, things like this, in your thinking?
Yes, they have been considered, but this is what I want to do because I think it matches the historic character of the area. And Ms. Shaw on the north side has a similar wall, and she does not object. She supports the request.
Okay, thank you.
So in theory, yes, it could be jogged, but, and the whole neighborhood, you know, was built before traditional zoning. I mean, I've lived and worked in this neighborhood for over 30 years. I've had this property since 1996. My office building right over here was built in 1951. Neither of them comply with current zoning. But I'm living the livable, walkable type of lifestyle that everybody seems to want, or many people seem to want. So this is my request. The carport idea is so that I can age in place. It's true, the ramp is tight, but it works. It's not required by code, but Mr. Herwald, who actually helped me redo this house back in 1996 when I bought it, has come up with a solution that works.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, if not, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
So we'll go ahead and move on to public participation. Public participation is now open. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the board. This is your time to come forward to speak only on this agenda item if you have anything to add. Seeing none, public participation is closed. City staff, do you have anything further? Anything you'd like to add?
I don't, but if you have any questions for me, I'm here to answer them, and in the meantime, I'm going to close these windows down.
Any questions of staff? Okay. Anything additional from the applicant? I'd imagine not, since we had nothing extra for the public, but I wanted to verify. Okay. With that, discussion and/or questions by the board. Anybody want to open?
Will we vote on these separately, 1, 2, and 3?
I would recommend that. I want to make sure staff's good with it.
If that's what you'd like to do, we
Okay.
can break this up into 3 different motions.
Okay. I have each request separate, so I'll mention each one and call for a vote that way. So, any discussion on the item? Okay. The only thing I would like to add or mention, staff did make a case for the criteria. We as a board are required to follow the criteria before us. If we disagree with staff, we're more than welcome to, but we need to make sure that we're following it.
Understood.
So, okay. With that being said, do I have a motion to approve the requested variance with the understanding that you make the motion to approve? However, that does not mean you have to agree to it. So we'll do the first one, which is going to be extend the existing north wall of the primary structure side yard 8 feet at a 2.1 foot side yard setback. Do I have a motion to approve the requested variance?
I give you a motion to approve the variance.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Coleman, you ready? Can we have a vote, please? Roll vote.
Sure. Member Bean,
No.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hodges,
No.
Member Yates,
No.
Chair Wheatcraft.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, on the second request, it is add a carport roof 26 feet in length, 2.1 feet setback line in the front side yard north, is how it reads. So, do I have a motion to approve that particular variance request?
Yes, you have a motion to approve that variance request.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second it.
Thank you. Con, could you please call the roll vote?
Sure. Member Yates,
No.
Member Hodges,
No.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Bean,
No.
Chair Wheatcraft.
No. Our third request is to increase the height of a non-conforming structure, which is the existing portion of the house, 2.1 feet from the side property line. The only caveat that I might add, if as part of the discussion, with the condition that the side of the home is properly guttered, as the applicant had indicated. So if you'd like to just, that would be the recommendation. However, whoever makes the motion can do it how they see fit. So do I have a motion to approve the requested variance?
Yes, you have a motion to approve the variance with the exception of adding the gutter to the setbacks areas of where the neighbors' yards are located.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Con, can you please call the roll vote?
Sure. Member Bean,
Yes.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Hodges,
Yes.
Member Yates,
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft.
Yes. Okay,
Motion passes.
thank you. Okay, we'll move on to new business and start with Ardesia Flats, Ardesia Final Plat. This is the review and a recommendation to the City Commission to approve the final plat, Phase 3 and 4, and the construction documents of the Ardesia Residential Subdivision. City staff, do you have a report?
Give us 1 second for staff.
Okay, we'll stand by for a moment. Where's he at? Oh. There he is.
For the record, I'm Jeff Gove from the Planning Department, here presenting for Ardesia subdivision, phases 3 and 4, the final plat. This property was formerly known as Shell Point and now has been renamed to Ardesia.
Jeff, will you move the microphone towards you?
Sure.
Thanks.
Its location, it's shown on the map there, west of 95, abutting the south side of Pioneer Trail, and generally north of the existing Venetian Bay and Verano subdivisions to which it connects by roadways. The PUD was approved for this site in 2018. The site was formerly a sod farm, so it was largely cleared. That PUD allowed for a maximum of 745 residential units, all single family, within the total 543-acre PUD. With this being the final phase of residential development, the total of all phases is 687 units, which is well under that 745 single-family maximum. This particular phase is for 368 single-family units within 275 acres. The initial phase 1 and 2, that's now recorded, that was for 319 lots within 210 acres. The PUD MDA allows for lots to be a minimum of 6,600 square feet in area and 55 feet wide. And all the proposed lots meet or exceed that. The 368 proposed lots in phase 3 and 4 have an average lot area of 7,892 square feet. This particular phase also contains 10.7 acres that have been dedicated to Volusia County for the future construction of Williamson Boulevard, south from its current terminus at Pioneer Trail. You can see that on the map. That white section goes through and stubs out to the Utilities Commission property, through which it will continue south, ultimately to State Road 44 and State Road 442 in Edgewater. The site's also been affected by DOT construction and taking of some of its property for the future Pioneer Trail I-95 interchange. There's parks and common areas that have been provided in accordance with the PUD requirements. That includes a 20-acre park area to be dedicated to the city, along with paved and unpaved trails, a dog park, playgrounds, etc. And while it's not a requirement of the PUD MDA, the applicants proposed an amenity center, which is shown in your package as exhibits I-1 and I-2. Those would be submitted as a separate site plan to come following this plat approval. Another exhibit is H2, which is the second minor amendment to the 2018 PUD MDA. That amendment concerns the funding for roadways, landscaping, etc. within Venetian Bay by future Ardisia residents. That issue had been discussed during the approval process of phases 1 and 2. Review of the plat by an independent surveyor on behalf of the city is now ongoing to be completed prior to commission approval. With that, staff recommendation is for the board to also recommend approval of this plat to the city commission. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you.
Okay.
If the applicant would like to come forward, introduce himself.
For the record, my name is Glenn Storch, and I represent the applicant in this case. In fact, I've represented Shell Point since the minute it was begun, so this is quite some time. This is the last residential plat. We have complied with every single thing that's required in the PUD, including the minor amendments. We have complied with the, in fact, we've done more than complied. We've also dealt with some of the issues such as the Pioneer Trail expansions that we had to give land for, and the interchange that we had to give land for. So, and at the same time, we also gave land for Williamson Boulevard. By the way, that Williamson Boulevard right-of-way is now completely dedicated to the county. So it starts at Pioneer Trail, goes through this area that we've dedicated, goes to the area that the Utilities Commission has dedicated, and then goes to the area all the way to 442. So that right-of-way is done. And they'll be looking at trying to find ways of building that section of Williamson Boulevard. As to this final plat, as you know, the requirements for a final plat, I mean for a plat development, is does it meet the comp plan? In this particular case, the staff has indicated that this, does in fact meet all the comp plan requirements. Does it meet the zoning? In this case, it's a PUD. Staff has indicated it meets the zoning. Does it meet the land development code? Staff has indicated it meets or exceeds the land development code. And in fact, the reason why it does that is because even though we were allowed to have, I think it was 740 units, they've scaled that down by approximately 100 units in order to provide bigger lots and provide more area, open space. So all those things are done. The standards for granting a plat are those three things: consistent with the comp plan, consistency with the land development code, consistency with the zoning, and in this case, you have a recommendation for approval from staff. So, however, in case you have any questions, we have our team here, including our engineer and the applicant himself, ready to answer any questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any questions of the applicant?
I have one. On the sheet number 3 of the record plat, it shows the overall parcel separated into a parcel A and a parcel B. Parcel B is 60 acres. It seems that all of the lots are on parcel A.
Yes.
What's the other, I think the lower southern part of parcel B is the park area. What's the intended use for the rest of parcel B?
It's all conservation easement, is that correct? The park. I'm not the park. Oh, yes, all conservation. Yes.
I'm sorry?
The other stuff, other than the park, is probably on that other side of Williamson. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
That's going to be conservation.
Okay, and that's documented in somewhere.
Yes, yes, yes. And Chris, why don't you get...
If you don't mind.
Chris Rowley with Zevcon Associates, 300 Interchange Boulevard, Ormond Beach.
And Chris is documenting that, yes, it is, in fact, documented.
Yes.
This is a conservation easement.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, seeing none, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
At this time, we'll open up public participation. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the Planning and Zoning Board. Seeing one, we will continue. If you don't mind stating your name and address for the record, sir.
Good evening, Joe Bluback, 3321 East Laconda, Venetian Bay, representing the Venetian Bay Homeowners Coalition. Turns out, as we all know, that the city is suffering from an issue of stormwater flooding. That not only occurs down in the traditional city, but also out west of 95, what I would call the Wild West, because a lot of bad things are happening there, but nobody seems to care. Ardesia Park, which is what we're talking about tonight, is part of that community, along with Venetian Bay, along with the I-95 exchange at Pioneer Trail, along with Deering Park. That whole, if you look right now, if you look at aerial photos of all of those areas, they are currently flooded. And we haven't even had a hurricane yet. We have an issue out west that involves the city, involves the local areas, involves the county, involves the state, and no one seems to be solving that problem. And continuation of building out there in that area will just create everlasting catastrophe. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to come forward on this particular agenda item? Okay, seeing none, public participation is closed. City staff, do you have anything further? No. Okay, nothing further from the applicant? Okay. Okay, with that being said, discussion and/or questions by the board? Any further discussion? Okay, I would like to just make it clear for our residents, so that way they understand we're not just approving this essentially because we feel like it, or the developer. What I'm trying to get at is we have to approve this under a legally binding agreement, and there's laws in place by the state of Florida that requires us to review it in a certain way. You have professional engineers that are looking at this. You have city staff that are looking at this. So you have plenty of professionals that have already done their approval process. And by the time it gets to us, we got to make sure that it's just in line with what they're saying. So this isn't legislative. This is quasi-judicial in nature. So we have to take the facts at hand. So with that being said, is there a motion to recommend approval of the requested final plat to the City Commission?
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat, S-4-23 Ardesia, PD Phases 3 and 4 final plat and construction documents.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Con, do you mind calling the roll vote?
Member Yates?
Yes.
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Bean?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes. Thank you. We'll move on to V-8-25 at 611 South Atlantic Avenue. This is the public hearing for a variance to allow a replacement monument sign. City staff, do you have a report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the parcel contains approximately 1.84 plus or minus acres of land, and it's located on the east side of South Atlantic Avenue, north of Ocean Avenue. So the parcel is zoned B4-6, which is Ocean Commercial, with a maximum height of 6 stories. It has an existing 6-story, 89-unit timeshare condominium. The short-term rentals are allowed at this location, and the existing pole sign was installed prior to the 2011 sign regulation restricting new pole signs. So the existing building and the parking lot's elevation at the center of the building is approximately about 4 feet above the grade of the road. Since the building is a timeshare type of ownership, multiple owners can own each unit. This type of ownership can provide different visitors each week, and the 4-foot elevation rise is based on an approved site plan from 1999. This elevation could have been required based on stormwater retention plan and, of course, also any dune elevation that was on the property. So based on this obtained Google Street View from 2007, that existing pole sign was in place prior to the city amending the sign ordinance in 2011 to restrict any new or replacement sign poles or pole signs, and only allowing for pole signs in either of the National Registered Historic Districts. So the applicant has proposed a monument sign as a replacement to the current non-conforming pole sign. The maximum height in this zoning district for a monument sign is 10 feet in height. The building department enforces the sign height from the road elevation. So the applicant has proposed a monument sign to be 10 feet in height, but requested the measurement to be from the top of the retaining wall and the current grade of the property, since the retaining wall and the property grade is about 4 feet above the sidewalk. So the overall height from the sidewalk would be 14 feet. That replacement sign would be required to be 5 feet or greater from the front property line and outside any visibility triangles. This proposed monument sign would be located outside of any required visibility triangle, but if moved 5 foot back or more, the proposed sign would be located within a handicapped parking space and access aisle. So in this illustration, on the lower photo, you can see the dotted line where that 5 foot would be, where if it was moved back. So as you can see in this photo, directly adjacent to the sign is the handicap parking space with a handicap accessible aisle. And the applicant has also requested that the base be more than 10% narrower than the sign cabinet. The area between the retaining wall and the parking lot curb is only about 6.5 feet, as you can see in that illustration. So that's the only area they have to place the cabinet for this proposed monument sign. An alternative would be to reduce the side cabinet width to 8 foot in width instead of 9 foot in width. So just to recap, the applicant is requesting the following variances. One, they're asking for a variance to section 604, paragraph 12, subparagraph G, to allow for a 10-foot tall monument sign or ground sign to be measured from the property grade and not the road grade. This would allow for an overall height of the ground sign to be 14 feet above the road grade. Number two, they're asking for a variance from section 604, paragraph 12, subparagraph F, line 11, to allow for a ground or monument sign to be closer than 5 feet to the front property line, but not on the right-of-way. This would allow for the existing handicap parking space and access aisle to remain. Number three, they're asking for a variance of section 604, paragraph 12, subparagraph F, line 12, to allow for a copy area to exceed 10% of the width of the base area, because this is because of the space between the retaining wall and the parking curb. So the purpose of these sign regulations is to protect, preserve, and improve the character and appearance of the city of New Smyrna Beach, to provide ample opportunity to advertise in commercial areas where preserving excessive advertisement, which would have a detrimental effect on the character and the appearance of those areas. Also, it's intended that signs be placed on land or on a building for the purpose of identification or for advertising a use conducted on that land or in that building. So So the land development regulation requires variance requests to meet all of the following criteria. The applicant's response are italicized, and the planning department's evaluations are in bold following each criteria. So criteria number 1 is special circumstances exist which are particular to the subject property owner's land, structure, or building, and do not generally apply to the neighboring lands, structures, or building in the same district or vicinity. The applicant's response is that there's a retaining wall where the monument sign is going, and the retaining wall is at the same level as the parking lot. They are measuring the grade from the same level as the bottom of the sign. They would propose that the overall sign height from the allowable 10 feet to 14 feet above the ground. So with the planning department's evaluation, we feel that there are special circumstances to the lot because the previous grade had to be increased to meet the flood elevation required by the city engineer's office and to direct stormwater to the designed designated locations. Also, the sign base width is also reduced because of required retaining wall location, and the required sign setback would encroach into an existing handicap parking aisle space and parking spot. During that evaluation by the planning department, we feel that this criteria has been met. Criteria number 2, strict application of the provisions of the land development regulations would deprive the subject property owner of reasonable rights commonly applicable to other properties in the same district or may preclude a benefit to the community in general. The applicant's response was that strict application of the land development regulations would deprive the property owner of reasonable rights to effectively identify and promote their business, a right commonly exercised by other properties within the same zoning district. That without the requested variance, the sign would either be non-visible or significantly less effective due to the parking lot restrictions and the retaining wall. Granting the variance would not only allow the property owner to enjoy rights similar to those of neighboring businesses, but also enhance wayfaring and contribute positively to the community by supporting local commerce. So with the planning department's evaluation, strict application of the land development regulations would limit the proposed location of the sign. The proposed design location would be above the mature landscape height and help with the visibility for visitors. The proposed location would also keep the existing handicap parking spaces and the accessible aisle in place. And by saving the landscape height and the handicap accessible location, this would be a benefit to the community. So during the evaluation by the planning department, this criteria has been met. Criteria number 3, special circumstances and conditions exist that do not result from the direct or indirect actions of the present property owner or past property owners. This criteria shall not be satisfied if the present or past property owners created to any degree the hardship that's the subject of the variance request. So the applicant's response was that these circumstances include the retaining wall on half of the property as well as the size of the sign. The regulations that require the base to be in the same size as the sign, this would propose that the main sign cabinet to be wider than the allowable 10% of the sign base, the limited number of places the ground sign could go, the proximity to the road is limiting where the sign could be placed, and the parking lot covers most of the areas of the property. They are trying to avoid digging into the parking spaces. They would also have to reduce the front yard setbacks from the required 5 feet to a different measurement that would fit. The bottom of the sign, the grade would be within the regulations of the sign, begin at 10 feet in height. This unique property with a retaining wall is limiting the ability to install a compliant sign that would be visible and effective for identifying the property or business. The hardship is therefore not self-created, but rather the results of conditions beyond the control of the property owners. The planning department's evaluation is that the special circumstances and conditions were created by the required elevation of the development. The current double pole sign was allowable before 2011, but changes in the sign code would not allow a replacement for the same type of sign. To meet the current requirements of a monument or ground sign, a reduction in the front yard setback and an increase of overall height and overall height ratio would be required for the proposed sign. During the evaluation by the planning department, this criteria may have been met. Number 4, granting the variance would not cause substantial detriment to the public welfare or impair the purposes and intent of the land development regulations. The applicant's response is that granting the variances would not cause substantial detriment to the public welfare or impair the purposes of the intent of the land development regulations, that the hardship necessity, this variance arises from the physical characteristic and constraints of the property, such as its irregular shape, limited area before the road, elevation changes on the retaining wall, which were established prior to the current ownership and were not caused by any actions of the present or past property owners. That these unique size conditions limit the visibility and effectiveness of a sign installed in strict compliance with the current regulations. Therefore, the need for the variance is not self-imposed, but results from conditions beyond the control of the property owners. So the planning department's evaluation is that the current LDR prohibits pole signs outside of the National Registered Historic Districts. So current developments that propose to update those types of signs to a current allowable sign design may need to seek variances if the development does not have enough space for a monument or ground sign, or if there are major grade differences between a right-of-way and a property elevation. With the dune system along the beach, these properties may have to have higher elevations for stormwater system to work. And this request should not be detriment to the public welfare. So during this evaluation by the planning department, we felt that this criteria has been met. Number 5, that granting the variance will not constitute a grant of special privilege that is denied by the land development regulations to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. The applicant's response is that granting the variance would not constitute a special privilege, as it merely seeks to allow for the property owner the same reasonable opportunity for sign visibility that is afforded to other properties in the same zoning district. The variance request is intended to address specific site-related limitations that are not common on all properties, and approval would ensure equitable treatment of the ordinance rather than an advantage over others. So during the planning department's evaluation, again, each property could be different based on the property's elevation, stormwater design, existing or proposed development, and landscape buffers. If other properties in this area have the same issue, they have the right for a due process to request relief for the replacement sign that may not meet the current standards. This proposed sign would be in the current location of the existing sign, but would be 4 foot taller. The location from the front property line in the parking lot would remain the same. So during the evaluation by the planning department, this criteria has been met. So in summary, the property owner has requested a reduction in the front yard sign setback. They're seeking relief of the required base width and the overall allowance for height for a monument or ground sign. The request, if approved, would allow for the existing mature landscape to thrive and have better visibility for the visitors to find the timeshare condominium. It would provide ample opportunity to advertise in the commercial areas while preventing excess advertisement, which wouldn't have a detrimental effect on the character and appearance of those areas. So after this evaluation by the planning department, we feel the criteria has either been met or may have been met. Based on the evaluation of the planning department, we would recommend approval of the requested sign variance with the following conditions. 1, all parts of the sign must be located east of the existing retaining wall. And 2, the building permit would be required for any new proposed monument or ground sign. So that's a summary of the staff report. Subject to any questions the board members may have.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
Yes. Hey, Bob, is it correct to assume that when I went by and looked at it, that giving this 4 feet higher, it's not blocking the view of anyone other than their own building, correct?
Correct. So the access points to this timeshare pretty far left and right of the building itself. It actually shares a access point with the condo building next door, or there's like a 3-story building, and the other access is off a public right-of-way. So it's pretty far away from either one of those access points that it should not create any issue for a visibility triangle for people either entering or accessing exiting the property.
Thank you.
Bob, is this going to stick out like a sore thumb? Like 4 feet taller? Is this all about marketing and advertising, or does it have to be this big?
Well, the main reason that they seek the request is, you can see in this shot here, the existing sign they have, what they've had for a long time, it's a wooden sign that they've just painted over and over again. It's partly being blocked by the mature landscaping. And we don't want them to cut that down. You know, if they cut that down and get rid of the landscaping up front, then they can put a monument sign at the same height they've got now. But the idea is, it takes a long time for certain plants to grow on the beach side, so we really don't want them to cut too far down. So the idea is, they want to put the sign that starts just above where the landscape is there now. So as you can see on the proposed sign, the base would actually be maybe hidden by some of that landscape, and then only the top part of the sign, the advertisement portion of the building. Also too, like I said, this is a timeshare. So there's like 3 of these coconut palms. I think this coconut palm's 2. You got a 1, you got a 3. There may even be a 4, but I know there's at least 3. And so with the timeshares, how they work is, you know, you have different ownerships a week. Each week is owned by a different owner for each unit. And so while you may come and visit this condo when you first buy your timeshare, as time goes by, you share or trade your week with somebody else because you want to use their condo. Maybe it's in Myrtle Beach or somewhere else. So there's a big opportunity where people that are coming visiting this place or this location, it may be their first time because they've traded the week, so they're trying to find which one of these coconut palms are they supposed to be at. So if they can see the sign, then, and it's showing that it's Coconut Palms 2, then, you know, and see the address of the sign, then hopefully they'll be able to find the right location. They won't pull in the wrong timeshare building. So I think that's really what the sign is for. It's not really for advertisement for us. It's for advertising those people that are coming out of town trying to find that timeshare building.
So you couldn't cut a couple feet off that?
Well,
I understand the situation that you're in, people visiting, timeshare owners visiting and stuff, but it seems like it's going to be so high, it's going to be sticking out, and there are plenty of signs up and down that Atlantic Avenue now.
Right.
And some of them, the 4x8s for the advertisings and stuff, and you know, if you're going to get that under control, you know, you go to some of these other cities that are on the beach and stuff like that. The signage is where they're getting.
Right.
It is hard to find the place.
Right.
Because they put that restrictions on it.
Yes. So if they move the sign back 5 feet, so let's say they don't ask for the 5-foot setback variance and they lose those parking spots, then they don't need a variance for the sign height because then the measurement's going to be taken at the grade of the property, which they're going to be 10 feet above their grade. The only reason why they're asking for the measurement to be taken at the grade of their wall and not at the road, because right now, currently with them being so close, they would take the grade outside of that as their elevation for their sign. So right now, to be 10 foot tall, they're losing 4 feet for the wall, but if they moved it back to 5 feet, that should be for the setback, they wouldn't even need a variance for the height. So the idea is moving it, keeping it towards the front so they don't lose the parking spots, but then that changes where they take the measurement for the sign in the building department when they issue permits.
So they can get it, they can replace it if they wish, if they take
If they wanted to move the sign 5 feet back, which is the setback for a sign, they could put one, exactly what they want to put, but it would be, we would lose the handicap drive aisle or access aisle, which means you probably would lose one of your handicap spots, something at the jog, so you'd probably lose a parking spot.
Any other questions?
The existing sign now, the readable area, what is the size of that, do you know?
Sure, if I know that.
I want to know that compared to what the new sign is, so I want both of those numbers.
Yeah, I currently don't know that. Maybe the sign company, if they're here, they might be able to provide that for you, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
What the current, but they're allowed to have up to a certain square footage of copy area. It's just the one they had before was probably undersized from what's allowable.
Okay. I went out there today, and the landscaper was at work in the recent past. Those bushes are cut back so that the top of the bushes are cut below the bottom of the existing sign.
Okay. When I went
Okay.
out there, it was not, but I didn't go out today.
Okay.
I went out probably a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's Florida, you got to cut every week. Do you know what the height is from the bottom of the retaining wall to the top of the existing sign?
I know the wall itself is 4 foot tall. They're allowed to have a 10-foot tall sign, but the sign that they have now is not 10 foot above that wall.
If the blue area is 4 foot, it's hypothesized it's probably 10 foot from the foot of that retaining wall to the top of that sign. I too have the same concerns about the height. I mean, overall objective of a sign code is to get rid of the billboards, okay? Now, obviously, the 4 foot doesn't make this a billboard, but the concept of low monument-type signs really makes sense, and it makes for visual attractiveness in a neighborhood. I mean, I could see where they could eliminate or reduce the height of their pedestal.
And that's correct. That was one of the options we had in the staff report. They could make the base or make the sign narrower, which would not require a 10% variance for the base size.
Well, I'm not worried about the variance or, the difference between the base to the outsides of the sign. But looking at the bottom picture there, you've got approximately 4 foot of base. And then you got 5.5 foot sign above it. I mean, that base could be 1 foot and still be a pedestal type of sign. Could it not?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? I just had one more. I just wanted to verify with you saying one of the conditions recommended by staff is that they had to get a building permit, of course, that the new sign, if installed, would not be in the right-of-way. Just wanted to verify that the sign will completely have to be on the property owner's property.
Correct. So we found an old plat plan from 1998, which is about the time that this condo was built, and the wall sits exactly on the front property line.
Okay. Thank you. And I believe if that's it, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Is the applicant or representative present? If you don't mind stating your name and address for the record for us.
Hi, my name is Colleen, 7205 Walty Drive, Melbourne.
And do you have anything further for us, or are you just here for questions, if we have any?
Just questions if you have any.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant? Okay, well, thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll open up public participation. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the board. The floor is yours.
Cindy Snezak, 512 Yukon. So while Mr. Mathan didn't mention it, they don't have to remove the pole signs because the commission declined to approve the ordinance, right? So, and the pole sign is in good condition because I drove by it this evening as well, and the bushes do not look like what they look like in the bottom picture. They're trimmed, and so they cover no portion of the sign. So if the setback's not an issue, I don't really care about the setback, but that sign would be out of place if it were 4 feet taller. And based on those poles, which certainly can't be the maximum text area according to the regs, they could put this, well, maybe better use of the space on the sign to make it really clear where they are, but make it slightly bigger. So the landscaping is a question of trimming, which sometimes they're updated in their trimming and sometimes they're not. But to have it 4 feet taller, I mean, I walk that strip almost every day, it really would stick out. So I guess this is a want more than a need, but it's a want that the justification for it really doesn't jive with what the current tone that has been set by the commission is. And going 4 feet higher just seems a little over the top. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, public participation is closed. City staff, do you have anything further? I'd imagine the applicant doesn't either. So discussion and/or questions by the board.
I would like to just say one
Sure.
thing, just for clarification. No, we are not forcing anyone to remove pole signs. However, if they are looking to upgrade, change faces, modify it, then yes, the pole sign could not be modified and kept. So if they're just choosing to have a new sign, they have to bring it into compliance. So we're not making them remove it, but if they're upgrading, yes, they do have to become compliant with the ground sign. Just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that.
Thank you. Okay. Any discussion, questions?
Same thing that I said before. I mean, the height is the issue. The location and closeness to the street and setback makes all the sense to save the handicap spaces and not redo all of that. It just seems that, you know, personally, I don't think the sign would be any less effective 4 foot less. You're assuming the landscape is maintained. Landscaping has to be maintained down here. It's just the rule of living here.
Well, the base was 4 foot. You did get your measurements. Did you see that last
Stephen,
slide?
do you mind speaking to the mic?
I'm sorry, the base did look like it was 4 foot in total, the base of the sign?
The new sign.
The new sign?
Right.
Right. Maybe we could agree that it could be 2 feet, lowering it 2 feet. So we're compromising a little bit on the total height of the sign in the sense that...
I think we're better off, if we wanted to do that, say the sign could be 11 foot tall or 12 foot tall, leave it up to the sign designers to do what they think is right, you know, to make it most effective. Personally, I would leave the 10-foot requirement as it is and not be in favor of that part of it, because I think signage can be adequately done for that relatively low-speed street. And everything's up close to the street on that. I mean, it's going to jump out if it's tall, in my opinion.
I think we're messing up. The height of the sign right now is 8 feet. Is that correct, Bob? And they're wanting to go to 12, or what are we talking? I'd like to just get that clarified, if you don't mind.
So they didn't submit anything to show the height of the current sign. The regulation says you can be 10 feet above the road grade. So what they're asking for is for the 10 foot to be taken at their grade, at the measurement, and not at the road grade, which would actually raise their sign up 4 feet. So they're still looking to put a 10-foot sign. It's just currently it would be measured from the road grade, which would be a 4-foot increase, which would make it a 14-foot sign.
A 14?
Mm-hmm. Because of the
From
4-foot
the-
wall
from the
that it
road.
sits on top
From
of.
the crown of the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if the sign was moved back to the setback, the measurement would be taken at their grade, because at that point, the sign's out on the property and not at the front property line.
But then that would mess up their handicap parking
Correct.
situation.
Correct. If they lose their handicap spot by moving it back, they can do the sign exactly what they want to do. It would just be sitting on their asphalt pavement, and they would probably lose a parking spot.
So the restriction is because it's so close to the roadway?
Correct.
Not the height 5 foot back?
Correct. We currently require you to be 5 feet back, so they'd have to move it 5 foot back. Back in the day where you had pole signs, you would allow them to be closer because you had the open poles and you could see through. The whole thing really was for visibility, so you can see through it.
Okay.
Bob, could we drop it a couple feet and then have the lettering in that smaller? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
can
they
we
could
make this
propose,
smaller?
they could propose a smaller sign. I know that the height of the letters, especially for the address, have to be at least 6 inches tall, because that's required by the fire department so they can see what the building is numbered on the building. So, you know, if they want to design, this is what they wanted. We looked at the criteria that we had. We looked at what they wanted to do. Could the sign be smaller? Yes, it could be smaller. But does that make the print smaller? Does that mean that there's less words on their sign? Yes.
So there is other options.
There could be some other options.
Other
I mean, the sign company's here, which is the applicant, so that's really a question I would want you to refer to them, because they're the ones representing the property owner. You know.
Any other questions while Bob's still here?
You want to speak to the
Okay.
sign people? You want to speak to the
Do
sign
you want to
people?
speak to the applicant one more time?
You know, I think we need.
Well, you got to speak into the mic.
I think we need something else to look at. I'd like to see something else. I don't know if we can design it here. I'd like to see it.
That's not, and
Right. I mean, if the
Our,
landscaping's been trimmed down where maybe they don't need to have the sign to be 10 foot above the wall, and they could do away with maybe 8 feet, you know, but that's a question really for the applicant, since they represent the property owner, and they're the ones that paid the fees to be in front of you, so.
So if I'm gonna, I'll add to the discussion a little bit. So I do agree with you guys as far as the additional 4 feet. I think it could be done where they're at 6 foot and then they have the 4 foot of walls, so your traditional 10. It's probably gonna be about what they have now. When you see the sign in the current condition, I don't see any reason they can't replace it, like for like, if you will, but with a monument sign if they want to. So I'm kind of in agreement with both of you as far as the 4 foot's too high, in my opinion. And as far as the criteria is concerned, I think that's where I'm trying to stick to. I think it meets the other requirements for the criteria personally, but whenever it gets to the height, I can't quite get there on that one.
Right.
And Bob, you know, the expense for them to move that back and go into that disabled parking, the expense would be through the roof. So they can, without a major expense, they can redesign that.
So when you're dealing with timeshare buildings, the requirement for parking back in 1999, when this was being built, in the late 1990s, they were only required to have 1.25 parking spots per unit, because they were small timeshare buildings, 1-bedroom type units, maybe 2-bedroom. But they wasn't as large like for you'd see a condo where you could be 2 to 3 buildings. So the current regulation requires 2 parking spots for each unit, but back then it was 1.25. So for every parking spot they lose, it's a big deal for that community, because they wasn't required back then to have 2 spots per unit like we are required today. So they are limited in the number of parking spots. So we'd hate to see them lose any parking, especially, you know, they would still not lose the handicap spot, they would just move that over. But you're gonna lose a parking spot, a regular parking spot. And when you only have 1.25 per unit, 1 parking spot doesn't sound like a lot, but it could be when you have 80-some units and you probably have 100 parking spots. So.
But I'd also like to remind you that financial hardship is not a criteria to consider with a variance.
Right. So if they don't get a variance for the setback, they will have to move it 5 feet back. They could put exactly the sign they want. It would be 10 feet above their grade, which would still be 14 feet above the road.
So they could still have what they want, but it's pushed further back from the sidewalk.
Correct.
If we didn't agree to their height.
Correct.
So, and I mean, from what we're looking at now, if we did not potentially agree with the 4 foot increase, then you have what you see in current pictures.
Correct. So if they don't get the sign variance height, then what they could do is they can build a 6 foot tall sign above the wall, because 4 feet is already being taken up, or the first 4 feet is already being claimed by the wall.
So with that being said, would you guys like to separate these out into 3 separate votes? Yes.
Or if you have any questions for the applicant, they're here as well still. They can always come back up.
Would the applicant like to come forward? Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or any additional thoughts before we go with a vote?
I just wanted to reiterate that the parking lot, if we do move it, like inside the parking lot, there is a throughway, the 2-way traffic in the parking lot. So if we do move the sign, it might impede the throughway traffic.
Okay. So, and again, they're not required to move the sign back. They could do one at 6 foot. It's their prerogative if they want to pursue that. So, okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that being said, could staff, I don't have the individual request in front of me.
They're right here.
You have them? Okay, do you mind if I see it real quick? Yeah, thank you. So I'll read off each request. What I may do, if you guys are okay with this, there were 2 conditions listed by staff. If you'd like to, within your motion, if you want to include them, you can. Just say something to the effect of, with the conditions as listed by staff. That way they're captured as a part of that request. Does that sound good? Okay. So the first request is to allow for a 10-foot tall monument or ground sign to be measured from the property grade and not the road grade, to allow for an overall ground sign to be 14 feet above the road grade. So this is what we were just talking about with a 4 foot height increase. So with that being said, do I have a motion to approve the requested variance?
I make a motion to approve the variance for a 10-foot monument or ground sign measured from the property grade which would make the overall ground sign height to be 14 feet above the road grade, conditioned upon all parts of the sign located east of the existing retaining wall, and secondly, building permit required.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Appreciate it. Con, do you mind calling the roll vote?
Sure. Member Yates?
Yes.
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Hall?
No.
Member Bean?
No.
Chair Wheatcraft?
No.
Motion fails.
Thank you. For our second request, it's allow for a ground or monument sign to be closer than 5 feet to the front property line. Do I have a motion to approve the requested variance?
I'll motion to approve the requested variance.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Con, could you please call the roll vote?
Sure. Member Bean?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Yates?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes. And for clarification, real quick on that last motion, we talked about the conditions, wasn't technically added. Do we need to go back and do that, or is,
That other
Or just-
motion did not include the
any conditions? Okay. So, okay. I'm sorry?
Yeah, you would still need both of those conditions.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with us already having the vote, we didn't have the conditions included. Could we potentially add an additional vote, or how?
You're gonna have to revote that, you're gonna have to amend it.
Okay.
Vote it with both of those conditions included.
Okay. So real quick, discussion by the board. Are we good with amending that or to add the conditions?
What were the conditions that you wanted to add?
The two conditions that staff laid out, all parts of the sign must be located east of the existing retaining wall, and a building permit would be required for the proposed monument or ground sign. If you'd like, you could just say with the conditions as listed by staff.
Yes, I would like to add the conditions suggested by staff.
Okay, so you make a motion
I'll make a motion to approve the amendments that staff required to that variance
for the,
for the
number
5
two.
foot closer to the street.
Okay. Do I have a
Property
second?
line.
You got a second.
Are you good, Con? Yeah. Okay, do you mind calling the roll vote?
Sure. Member Yates?
Yes.
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Bean?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes. Thank you. I caught that at the end, realized we didn't list the conditions. So number 3, allow for a copy area to exceed the 10% width of the base width. Do I have a motion to approve the requested variance with the conditions potentially?
I'll make a motion to approve to allow for the copy to exceed 10% added with the conditions suggested by staff.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Con, could you please call the roll vote?
Member Bean?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Yates?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to our next item, SV-5-24, street vacation at the New Smyrna Beach Airport. City staff, This is a review and recommendation to the City Commission of an application seeking a right-of-way vacation. City staff, do you have a report?
I do. We have Assistant Airport Manager Jacob Cosat applying on behalf of the airport, 602 Skyline Drive, New Smyrna Beach, requesting vacation of right-of-ways in the airport property. So here we go. This picture right here, the highlighted areas in yellow are 3 separate areas of right-of-way that are proposed to be vacated. So what you have here, this is from 1960. They had that, there's like an access street that runs parallel to US 1, if you see it kind of going this way across your screen right there. And there were a bunch of platted lots along US 1 back in 1960. Later on, they redid this. They didn't include a lot of the sections south and a little bit north of this and kind of reconfigured it. So what we have kind of remaining now, and this is kind of an aerial that shows you where we're actually looking at here, the highlighted area is also the areas that's bolded. So you have the platted 80-foot access street, you have the little kind of check mark looking section that goes to Arrow Circle, You have, kind of looks like a horseshoe on the right side there, which kind of is near Lost Lagoon. It's just on the north side of it. Then you have this little rectangle piece to the north. So these three pieces are what would be proposed to be kind of just taken out of this, off the property altogether. And the other areas, Arrow Circle, Skyline Drive would all remain. The property is zoned I-3 Industrial Park District. This would allow the development and redevelopment of the property. Basically, we're trying to avoid building on platted right-of-ways, which is not permitted, and in the past has happened. There was a building that was in this vicinity, 2015, that was taken down. I think it was due to poor condition. And there's no, engineering has no need for the right-of-way is in there, but there are other items in there which our utilities people have looked at, which they had some issues with. So this area right here is kind of, again, it's going to be what they want to do, put a new building here in the future. But there are some easements that are required from NSB Utilities. There's a 14-inch force main and a 12-inch water main, which runs parallel to US 1. So we've done the surveying. It's all been located, and the easements will be granted from the airport property to New Smyrna Beach Utilities so they can maintain and access their utilities in the district. There are a couple of requirements for in the land development regulations for street vacations. We have to review it, and it's consistent with the comp plan and LDR. Again, the city has no purpose for these right-of-ways. In fact, they'd like to kind of be able to redevelop some of the areas in there. And would it be in the interest of the public good? Again, right now, these are roads that are never going to really be used, and they're going to, things will be reconfigured potentially in the future, new developments going in back in there. Therefore, we recommend that the Planning and Zoning Board recommend approval to the City Commission. They will have 3 hearings on this. One is a resolution and 2 voting for an ordinance.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, thank you. And the applicant is also the city?
Yes, he is here, though. Jacob Kosad is here.
Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to add? Okay, any questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you. Public participation is now open. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the Planning and Zoning Board. The floor is yours if anybody would like to speak on this item. Seeing none, public participation is closed. So I'd imagine staff doesn't have anything further.
I do not.
Okay. Thank you. So discussion and/or questions by the board. Any discussion? If there is no discussion and/or questions, a motion to recommend approval of the requested street vacation to the City Commission.
I'll recommend approval of SV-5-24, applicant seeking Planning and Zoning Board to provide right-of-way vacation on New Smyrna Beach Airport property.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Con, could you please call the roll vote?
Member Yates?
Yes.
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Bean?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes. Thank you. We'll move on to our next item, A-0008-2025 at 824 Ingham Road. This is the review and first public hearing of a voluntary annexation, rezoning, and small-scale comprehensive future land use map. City staff, do you have a report?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So the property owners requested a voluntary annexation, small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, and changing the future land use category from of Volusia County low intensity and rezoning from a Volusia County zoning designation of a mixed-use plan unit development with an A attached for the airport height notification zone to a compatible city future land use category of low-density residential and a city zoning designation of R2 single-family residential with the A attached for the airport height notification zone. So the site contains approximately 12.88 plus or minus acres, and it's located on the west side of Ingham Road, south of Mission Drive. The Planning Department recommends that the Planning and Zoning Board give a positive recommendation to the City Commission to approve the requested annexation, small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, changing the future land use category to city low-density residential, and rezoning the city R2 single-family residential with an A attached for the airport height notification zone. And that's a summary of the staff report, subject to any questions the board members may have.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is the applicant or representative present? And would you like to come forward? It's up to you. Okay, if you don't mind introducing yourself and your address.
Good evening. My name is Sydney Kendrick. My address is 10192 Downing Road, Orlando, Florida. I'm representing D.R. Horton. If you have any questions.
I actually do now, but that's just because you happen to mention D.R. Horton.
It's
So,
here as public record. Who's the applicant?
of course. So what is the intended use for this particular property?
Single-family residential homes.
Okay, so homes in the future then?
Yes.
So,
That's why
okay,
we're requesting straight zone.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay,
Thank you.
okay. At this time, public participation is open. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the Planning and Zoning Board. Is there anyone that would like to come forward? Okay, seeing none, public participation is closed. Anything further from staff? Okay, I'd imagine so for the applicant as well. Nothing further? Okay, thank you. Discussion and/or questions by the board? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to recommend to the City Commission to approve the overall annexation request, including the rezoning and proposed future land use, excuse me?
I make a motion to recommend the approval to the City Commission for annexation of a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment and the rezoning for the 12.88 acres requested on the west side of Ingram Road and south of the Old Mission.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Colin, could you please call the roll vote?
Member Yates,
Yes.
Member Hodges,
Yes.
Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Bean,
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to A-0009-2025 at 736 Luella Street. This is the review and first public hearing of a voluntary annexation, rezoning, and small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use map. City staff, do you have a report?
All right. Yes, Mr. Chair. So the property owners have requested a voluntary annexation, small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, changing the future land use category from Volusia County rural and rezoning from Volusia County zoning designation of A3 transitional agriculture with an A attached for the airport height notification zone to a proposed future land use category of rural and a compatible city zoning designation of A3 transitional agriculture with an A attached for the airport height notification zone. So the site contains approximately 2.66 plus or minus acres. It's located on the north side of Luella Street between Alberta Street and Pioneer Trail. So the Planning Department recommends that the Planning and Zoning Board give a positive recommendation to the City Commission to approve the requested annexation, small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, changing the future land use category to city rural, and rezoning to city A3, transitional agriculture, with an A attached for the airport height notification zone. And that's a summary of the staff report, subject to any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is the applicant or representative present? And if so, would you like to come forward? Okay, not seeing anyone. We'll go ahead and open up public participation. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the board. Is there anyone that would like to come forward on this item? Okay, seeing none, public participation is closed. Imagine nothing further from staff. Any discussion? Questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to recommend to the City Commission to approve The overall annexation request, including the rezoning and proposed future land use.
I'll make a motion to recommend A-0009-2025 to give a positive recommendation to the City Commission on the annexation at 736 Luella Street.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Con, could you please call the roll vote?
Member Bean?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Yates?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to ZT-5-25, which is I-3 Industrial Park Zoning District. Review and give a recommendation of a proposed text amendment adding a conditional use and definition of automotive wholesale used to the city use. Automotive wholesale used to city's land development regulations. City staff, do you have a report?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. So the applicant has provided some background on their business. Their company is Higginbotham Management Company, and they're trying to acquire a Florida's dealer's license for their new LLC, which is Higginbotham Autos. In order to get a Florida dealer's license, it's required for them to wholesale used cars out of their existing building. They need to ask for a zoning in this industrial park to expand their permission to do so. Also, this will be primarily an indoor wholesale operation, and it won't be open to the public. The building itself is already equipped for this type of operation, and they're willing to comply to whatever else the city may want. They do not intend for this to run like a used car lot, and actually prefer it to be a very low-key type of operation. So the applicant has provided a floor plan for their location, which includes office space, a conference room, and storage areas for the cars to be stored. The applicant has provided photos of their building. This slide provides photos of all four sides of their building. This slide also shows interior space with the office and the vehicle storage area. So this request is to amend the land development regulations, would not just allow for wholesale vehicles at their location, which is 1521 Airway Circle, but also would allow on other properties that are located in the I-3 zoning district outside of the city airport. So as you can see on this map, all of the I-3 zone properties are located in and around the city airport. So the area here referred to as Airport Industrial Park shall be defined. The certain areas depicted on this airport property map as aforesaid to be identified as portions of parcel C1 and B1. So as you can see on this map, that would be the two sections on either side of that one runway there. You see it's off Industrial Park and off of Terminal Bay Road. That is actually the part of the airport that is considered the industrial park. And so from the LDR, it gives explanations, and that's where this map was pulled from. So you can see where it talks about the portions of Cecil 1. And then it tells you the dates that was created, which was back in 1983. It also talks about the location of parcel B1. So the proposed amendment would add as a conditional use, conditional use is automotive wholesale used with the following conditions. No boats, trailers, or recreational vehicles. 2, only cars, trucks 1 ton and under, and motorcycles. Number 3, the maximum number of inventory would be 50 vehicles. Number 4, 50% of the inventory must be stored inside an enclosed building. Number 5, vehicles stored outside must be within a 6-foot tall solid fence. Number 6, a site plan shall be submitted per Article 11 of the city's land development regulation to the planning department for review. Number 7, it must meet landscaping, stormwater retention, utility, and parking as required in the city's land development regulations. And number 8, can only be located within the airport industrial park and not in the municipal airport. So Mr. Higginbotham has been in the automotive business for many years, including here in New Smyrna Beach. When the applicant sells a dealership, sometimes the new purchaser may not want some of the used inventory, and Mr. Higginbotham must wholesale these vehicles to other dealers. So he needs a place to store these vehicles while he's finding a buyer. Mr. Higginbotham owns the parcel near the airport, which is in the industrial park zoning. He's used this building in the past to store his personal vehicles. He's also needed office space for some of his employees, which were relocated because of a recent property sale here in New Smyrna Beach. So since he owns a building locally here in New Smyrna Beach, he would like to use that building to house his employees and the inventory he needs to be wholesaled out to other dealers. So the Planning Department is seeking a positive recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board to the City Commission to not only add a definition of automobile wholesale used, but also add a conditional use of automotive wholesale use only in the I-3 industrial park zoning, limited to the airport industrial park and not including the municipal airport. And that's a summary of the staff report, subject to any questions the board members may have.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
Yeah, Bob, what about, I know when these dealers buy these lots up and stuff, sometimes they pick up a new car, and in the recommendation here, it is for used car only.
Correct.
So if they have a new car, they can't bring it here?
No. No. So new cars have to be purchased through the manufacturer to a dealer, and the dealer retails those cars out. So with Mr. Higginbotham, even though he's got a building, we try to look at it of, other properties in I-3 could do this as well. So it's not just for him, it could be for other ones in the future. So we looked at it at, we wanted to limit the number of vehicles they could have. And we also wanted to require at least half of those cars have to be inside the building. So somebody can't just open up a vacant lot and say, I got a wholesale car place here. That's, because when you wholesale, you can't wholesale to the public. So in his situation, he does own dealerships around the country. And when he sells some of those dealerships, let's say he sells a Chevy dealership, got 2 or 3 Mercedes on there. The new buyers might not want the Mercedes used cars on the lot. So he has to take them off, put them on a truck, bring them down to this location, and then he'll wholesale those out to another dealer that's looking for used Mercedes or BMWs or whatever car it is that the new buyer does not want to keep in stock, and he'll take those cars. He needs a place to place them until we get them sold out. What we've been told by him, his operation is, there's pretty much no one shows up to the site. They find dealers, and then they just put them on trucks, and they send them on the way wherever that new dealer that's purchasing from them. So they need a staging place for wholesale cars. That's leftover inventory, and the only way they can do that in Florida is they have to have a location, otherwise they can't get their dealer's license here in Florida to be able to operate.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? I do want to say thank you for adding the definitions. I made that recommendation to staff and trying to shore up the language of the text, so thank you.
You're welcome. The applicant may be here. I'm not sure. There's so many people I don't know if the applicant may be here as well. So
Sure. So thank you. If the applicant would like to come forward, if there's anything you'd like to add?
Denise Matar, 2905 West Phoenician Lake Circle. I just wanted to see if you have any questions for me. I'm here to answer them. I'm the office manager, and I'm the one that's heading up, trying to get the dealer's license for Mr. Higginbotham.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant? Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thanks.
At this time, public participation is open. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the Planning and Zoning Board. If anybody would like to come forward on this agenda item. Seeing none, public participation is closed. City staff, I'd imagine, has nothing further. Same for the applicant, I'd imagine. Discussion and/or questions by the board?
No, sir.
Okay. Do I have a motion to recommend to the City Commission to approve ZT-0005-2025, proposed text amendment to the city's land development regulations?
I'll make a motion regarding ZT-5-25 to recommend approval to the City Commission to add the definition of automotive wholesale used to the land development regulations and add the conditional use of automotive wholesale used only in the I-3 zoning district, limiting to the airport industrial park only and not including the municipal airport property.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Con, could you please call the roll vote?
Member Yates?
Yes.
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Bean?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes. Thank you. We'll move on to SV-1-25, street vacation between Slatton Street and Chisholm Street. This is a review and recommendation to the City Commission of an application seeking a right-of-way vacation of a section of Birch Street between Slatton Street and Chisholm Street. City staff, do you have a report?
I do. We have applicant Aubrey Cummings Jr., 1925 Northwest 84th Street, Miami, Florida, 33147, requesting a vacation of a platted segment of Birch Street between Slatton, platted as Slayton, and Chisholm Street. It's 40 foot wide and 260 feet long within the Cotton Shed subdivision. So here, kind of a reference for you there. There's 44 going down, and then on the side, again, you have Chisholm, and then Myrtle is slightly more to the east. So this is the actual section of road right here on the plat. That's what is proposed to be vacated. And here is a survey of it. And on the survey, it's referred to as unnamed street, but as you can see, Birch kind of jogs over, so it's actually Birch Street that we're looking at here. And as you can see on the right side of your picture there, there's a driveway and a house that is sitting in the right-of-way. And now talking with the applicant, he claims that this road was vacated like 60 years ago or something, but there's no record of it anywhere. And according to him, that's why this house is in the street in the first place. So in his mind, this is kind of like a redo on this whole case right here. So basically, it's 10,400 square feet of land that will be vacated. It's kind of not the same orientation here. It goes between there. It's got some trees in it right now. And it would be split basically 50-50 between the property owners on each side. 3 of those 4 lots are owned by the Cummings family, and the other one they know and is familiar with the situation as well. Street vacations, remember from the last one, criteria you have to meet. City has no purpose for this right-of-way. There's no utilities in there. Engineering doesn't have any need for it. And in fact, it would be a public good because it would eliminate a non-conforming structure into being a conforming structure with the right-of-way, with the house no longer being in the right-of-way. Therefore, we recommend the board recommend the City Commission approve. Any questions for me?
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Thank
And
you.
I know that the applicant himself was not able to be here. He lives in Miami and he had to work, I think he's out of the country right now. So he tried to make it for the last one and that one ended up getting canceled. So here we are today. But I don't know if you had anyone here. I guess not. So.
Okay. Well, thank you. So with the applicant not here, we'll go ahead and open up public participation. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the board. If anybody would like to come forward on this agenda item. If you don't mind stating your name and address for the record.
Mariah Parker, 634 Yukon. I just have a question about it. Do the 3 people benefit from the property purchase it from the city?
So it wouldn't be a purchase, it would be dedicated over to them from the city. It's released back to the neighboring property owners.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Would anybody else like to come forward at this time? Okay, seeing none, public participation is closed. City staff, do you have anything further? Okay, applicant's not here, so discussion and/or questions by the board. Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to recommend to the City Commission to approve the requested street vacation?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of City Commission for SV-1-25, vacation of a platted segment of Birch Street between Slatton and Chisholm Street.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Con, could you please call the roll vote?
Yes. Member Bean?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Yates?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes. So we'll move on to ZT-9-25, outdoor dog dining. Review and give a recommendation of a proposed text amendment to create section 801, .33, outdoor dog dining. City staff, do you have a report? This is probably going to be our most lighthearted agenda item tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the applicant has requested that the city of New Smyrna Beach adopt an ordinance that would allow for the city to provide a process to allow for restaurants to have dogs in an outdoor seating area. So under Florida statute 509.233, the state of Florida will allow for local government to create an exemption to certain provisions of the Food and Drug Administration's food code. This exemption procedure would allow for patrons' dogs to be within certain designated outdoor portions of a public food service establishment. So under Florida statute 509.233, paragraph B, requires the minimum information for an exemption application. The following minimum information would be the name, location, and mailing address of the public food service establishment. Number 2, the name, mailing address, and telephone contact information of the permit applicant. Number 3, a diagram and description of the outdoor area to be designated as available to patrons' dogs, including the dimensions of the designated area, a depiction of the number and placement of tables, chairs, and restaurant equipment, if any, the entryways and exits to the designated outdoor area, the boundaries of the designated area and other areas of outdoor dining not available for patron dogs, any fences or other barriers surrounding property lines and public right-of-ways, including sidewalks, common pathways, and such other information reasonably required by the permitting authority. The diagram or plan shall be accurate and to scale, but does not need to be prepared by a licensed design professional. And number 4, the description of the days of the week and hours of operation that patron dogs will be permitted in the designated outdoor area. So under Florida statute 509.233, paragraph C, to protect the health, safety, and general welfare of the public, the following would be the minimum requirements. So 1, all public food service establishment employees shall wash their hands promptly after touching, petting, or otherwise handling dogs. Employees shall be prohibited from touching, petting, or otherwise handling dogs while serving food or beverages or handling tableware or before entering in other parts of the public food service establishment. Number 2, patrons are in designated outdoor areas shall be advised that they should wash their hands before eating, and waterless hand sanitizer shall be provided at all tables in the designated outdoor area. Number 3, employees and patrons shall be instructed that they shall not allow dogs to come in contact with serving dishes, utensils, tableware, linens, paper products, or any other items involved in the food service operation. Number 4, patrons shall keep their dogs on a leash at all times and shall keep their dogs under reasonable control. Number 5, dogs shall not be allowed on chairs, tables, or other furnishings. And finally, number 6, all table and chair surfaces shall be cleaned and sanitized with an approved product between seating of patrons. Spilled food and drink shall be removed from the floor or ground between seating of patrons. Number 7, accidents involving dog waste shall be cleaned immediately and the air sanitized with an approved product. A kit with the appropriate materials for this purpose shall be kept near the designated outdoor area. Number 8, a sign or signs reminding employees of the applicable rules that shall be posted on the premises in a manner and placed as determined by the local permitting authority. Number 9, a sign or signs reminding patrons of applicable rules shall be posted on premises in a manner and placed as determined by the local permitting authority. Number 10, a sign or signs shall be posted in a manner and placed as determined by the local permitting authority that places the public on notice that the designated outdoor area is available for use for patrons and patron dogs. Number 11, dogs should not be permitted to travel through indoor or non-designated outdoor portions of the public food service establishment. And ingress and egress to the designated outdoor portions of the public food service establishment must not require entrance into the passage through any indoor area of the food establishment. So those are the minimum requirements set by the Florida statute. Also, there are some other jurisdictions locally that have went ahead and created their own local regulation. One of them is Volusia County, The other one is the city of DeLand. So with that, the planning department is seeking a positive recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board to the City Commission to approve the proposed regulation of outdoor dog dining. And that is a brief summary of the staff report, subject to any questions board members may have.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
Does the Volusia County and the city of DeLand, I know Sanford does it also, are all of their requirements covered in your list, or do we have things that you have not included?
So they could have additional items. We based on ours based on the Volusia County Code, so we'd be consistent with them. Most of ours, but it does have all the minimum requirements by the state statute is in this proposed regulation. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Could we prohibit bulldogs named Uga from this? Could we add that recommendation?
I appreciate you.
Has staff looked into that?
Appreciate you adding that. I'm not sure if we can kick out certain types as long as they're behaving.
Understood.
No discrimination.
No discrimination.
I'm just happy to see this. I know that Susan Hall will take John out now for dinner.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is the applicant the city? Trying to recall. No. Or is it?
The applicant is not the city. We
Okay.
do have a private applicant on this.
Okay.
Right. There was a private applicant, yes.
Okay. Is the applicant or representative present? And if so, would you like to come forward? Okay, seeing none, we will move to public participation. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the Planning and Zoning Board. Seeing none, public participation is closed. City staff, I'd imagine, has nothing further. Okay. Discussion and/or questions by the board?
Do you think there's any need for any kind of liability insurance to protect the city?
These would be on private property, so they will have an application process, but it would be the private property owner's responsibility for insurance liability.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other discussion? Okay, if there's no other discussion and/or questions, is there a motion to recommend to the City Commission to approve ZT-0009-2025, proposed text amendment to the city's land development regulations?
I make a motion to recommend approval to the City Commission for the proposed regulation for the outdoor dog dining.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. Connor, could you please call the roll vote?
Member Yates,
Yes.
Member Hodges,
Yes.
Member Hall,
Oh, yes.
Member Bean,
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft.
Yes. Thank you. Now we'll move on to ZT-7-25, which is R2 Single Family Residential Zoning District. Review and give a recommendation of a proposed text amendment to Section 504.02 R2 Single Family Residential Zoning District by amending the special exception use of schools and/or a house of worship. City staff, do you have a report?
That seemed to be the relief picture for tonight. So the R2 Single Family Residential Zoning District lists the use of a house of worship or a school as a special exception use with the following conditions. That all structures that are located at least 35 feet from all side and rear property lines and off-street parking areas abutting residential property are screened by a buffer meeting the requirements of the land development regulations. So currently, other commercial structures that would be owned by the city, county, state, or federal government that would be allowed as a special exception use would only have to meet a 7.5-foot side and rear building setback and not the required 35-foot side and rear building setback. By reducing the requirement of an existing house of worship or an existing school to have setbacks of new structures or additions to be reduced to 10 feet or no closer than any existing structures could be considered a reasonable building setback from a residential property line. So under B2 and B3, which is our main commercial zoning districts, which have more intense uses, they only require a 10-foot side and rear building setback, but those districts do require a 25-foot landscape buffer against the residential zoned properties. So what's the proposed language change in the R2 zoning district? Well, the proposed amendment would add for existing schools or an existing house of worship, additions, improvements, or additional buildings may be reduced to a minimum of 10-foot side and rear building setbacks, or no closer than any existing structures on the property. New additions, new buildings, and off-street parking areas abutting residential property would have to be screened by a 7-foot landscape buffer or a 6-foot tall solid perimeter fence that meets the requirements of the land development regulation. So the planning department researched the number of properties that were owned by the city or the county or the state or the federal government, and we found a total of 36 properties. 22 of those properties are owned by the city. 9 of those were either stormwater ponds or canals. 11 of them are vacant, and 1 was a parking lot, and 1 is a sewer lift station. The New Smyrna Beach Utilities owns 3 properties. 1 was vacant, 1 contained a sewer lift station, and 1 contained electrical substation. Volusia County owned 4 properties. 2 were actually roads. 1 was a property that was vacant, and 1 property actually contains a commercial structure that stores the mosquito control pesticide. And the Volusia County School Board actually owns 6 properties. Those properties contained an athletic area at the Coronado Elementary School. The other properties contained was the Reed Patilla Elementary School and the Chisholm Elementary School. And then the Florida Department of Transportation owned 1 vacant property, but we could not find any federal-owned properties in the city. So this request to amend the land development regulation could affect 13 different churches and 2 schools within the city limits. The 2 existing public schools currently meet the 35-foot building setbacks on their existing buildings, but some of the churches that are located within the R2 zoning district that have buildings that are closer than 35 feet. These churches were constructed prior to the existing land development regulation, and most of these churches would be considered legal, non-conforming structures. So we try to create a map to show where churches and schools are located in the city in the R2 zoning district. This map covered the entire city, so I wanted to separate the city into 2 slides. This slide represents the north part of the city, and this slide would be the south side of the city. So as you can see on this slide, the Turnbull Bay Baptist Church on Conrad Drive and the Bethel Baptist Church on Enterprise Avenue, they can meet the 35-foot building setbacks, but the Solid Rock of Jesus on Oleander Street and the Church of God located on Hamilton Street would currently be considered legal, non-conforming churches with building setbacks that are less than 35 feet. On this slide, we have the Christian Science Church on Ball Street, the New Smyrna Bible Chapel on Hester Street. They currently meet the 35-foot building setbacks, but the Smyrna Free Will Baptist Church on Turnbull Street and the First Presbyterian Church on Magnolia Street, they don't meet the 35-foot building setbacks, so they would be considered legal non-conforming structures. The Coronado Community Methodist Church on South Peninsula Avenue and the St. Paul's Episcopal Church on Live Oak Street, they would meet the 35-foot building setback, but the Beachside Baptist Church on South Pine Street and the Accord Christian Church on Magnolia Street would be considered non-conforming, since those churches do not meet the 35-foot building setback. and the Trinity Lutheran Church on Turnbull Bay Road, they meet the 35-foot building setback. So it seems like 7 out of 13 churches that are located in the R2 zoning district have non-conforming building setbacks. That would leave 6 churches that have structures from within close areas of a residential property. So any proposed addition to a church over 1,500 square feet or 20% of the existing floor area would have to get a new special exception approval. The 2 schools shown on this slide, they would be conforming. They meet the required 35-foot building setback from residential property. The Chisholm Elementary School is on the top slide, and the bottom slide shows the Repatilla Elementary School. So the planning department's evaluation of the requested special exception text amendment could seem to be reasonable building setbacks against residential properties based on the following. Other commercial buildings owned by the city, county, state, or federal government that could be allowed as a special exception would only have to meet 7.5-foot side and rear building setbacks and would not be required to meet the 35-foot side and rear setbacks from a residential property line. Also, there are some existing churches that currently have non-conforming buildings that do not meet the 35-foot building setback and may be able to be conforming with this amendment. So with that, the planning department is seeking the Planning and Zoning Board to give a positive recommendation to the City Commission to approve the text amendment. And that's a summary of the staff report, subject to any questions that the board members may have. Also, the applicant is here for tonight. It's another private application for a text amendment like we've had the other 2 for tonight. So,
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
I have a question. So this was a private applicant that came in this. Why was it not handled as a variance?
Because the 35-foot setback is part of the use, you can't do a variance on a use. They attempted to try to do a variance application, but you can't do a variance on a use or any condition of a use. So the only way to do it is you have to change or amend the code.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I did have one question. There's many letters, I'd imagine my other board members also received them. One of them had mentioned about the 35-foot setback didn't come into play until potentially 2008, and they were alluding to it was potentially 10 feet in the past. I was hoping that staff might be able to provide any additional information if they happen to know it. The historical nature of why 35 feet rather than 10 to better help us.
Yeah, so the last time there was a change, other than a most recent change, we just had a ordinance in 2024 that changed the term from church to house of worship. So that was a change in 2024. Before that, there was a change in 2000, and that was to add the daycare to be on church property or house worship property. Before then, we look back, special exceptions have been required with those setbacks since 1978. That's as far as our records go. So this church was built way before 1978. And the current land development regulation that we work under right now is 1991. But that section was also in the code prior to 1991, so it was a carryover.
Okay.
So we could not find a case log where the 35-foot was added to the R2 zoning district.
I appreciate that. That helps clear that up.
And you're correct. We did email you all the letters we received so that you could have them. We didn't want to stack so much in front of you. I think there was a letter that was not emailed that we provided for you now. We also provided you the R2 zoning so you can see exactly what the regulation says. And then we also gave you a list of all the properties that were talked about tonight. That was school and house worship properties so that you could have that list in front of you as well.
Bob, you going from a 35 to a what? What are you thinking?
Well, as far as we know, it's been there since 1978. That's how far back we go for a special exception for churches. The current regulation we have is from 1991. That was a carryover from the previous book that we had before 1991. The change in 2000 was adding the daycare on a house of worship or church property.
So it'll go from 35 feet to what?
So what they're requesting is to go to 10 feet or to be no closer than any existing buildings you have right now. So if you have a vacant piece of property, you still would have to meet the 35-foot, but if you have an existing church or existing school, you could be less than 35, but no closer than what the existing buildings are now, but then no closer than 10. So if you got a building at 5, you can't be at 5, you got to be further away. But for anybody who's at 10, they can stay at 10. If you're at 20, you can stay at 20, but if you have no buildings, you still have to be at 35 for any new churches to town. So it's to give relief to existing churches that have been here prior to the regulation that was put in place.
Any other questions of staff?
And this one right now, it's set at 10 feet, the property, the rear property line?
The applicant that has paid
This
the money
property,
for
yes.
this, their church is sitting 10 feet from the rear property line.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is the applicant or representative present? Would you like to come forward? If you don't mind stating your name and address to the record for us.
Good evening. My name is Pete Thompson.
Do you mind speaking into the Thank you.
My name is Pete Thompson, and my address is 105 North Cooper Street, New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And the church, Beachside Baptist Church, had initially filed back in April an application for a special exception in order to extend the church use to a neighboring property that it owns, which is next door to the current church sanctuary. And it was doing that in order to an attempt to be able to grow the church, to be able to build a new sanctuary. But because of the special exception conditions for the 35-foot rear and side yard setbacks, that was a no-go, and the application was withdrawn because there was not a variance procedure. There was nothing that the church could do. So in order to stay and build on the current lot, it's very simple. We just, actually thought about it. And like churches are somewhat unique-looking, buildings and structures, and they're very special to the people that go there. And it just made sense if you're going to add, a building or an improvement to an existing church, the 35-foot setback would require this bizarre building, configurations, and it just didn't make sense. And so I talked to staff, and we chewed this over a little bit and came up with this, which has been recommended, which simply makes sense. It's just simply allowing existing churches to have an exception so that their lot line setbacks would be reduced to something which is more manageable, 10-foot and or no closer than the existing building lines. And again, this is not just for Beachside Baptist Church. This is for all the other churches that are also within the R2 district. And quite honestly, this should probably be done within the R1 districts and some of the other districts as well. There's been a lot of false narratives that have been presented to your board by way of objections, saying that there's going to be a 5-day-a-week school with drop-off and pick-up and things like this. That's not a plan. That's not something that the church is going to do. They looked at doing something like that several years ago, but it was not feasible. They're just simply not going to do that. There are also some objections based on the size of the sanctuary. 1,200 people, different things like that, and where are they going to park, and what about water runoff? All of these things, I'm asking this board tonight not to consider these. Those issues are superfluous. They're not relevant to tonight's proceeding. Tonight's proceeding is limited. It's a very simple text amendment that simply reduces the side and rear yard setbacks. And I think that's really the only issue that you should be focused on when you make your decision tonight. If Beachside Baptist Church or any other church decides that they want to go ahead and build, they're going to have to get building permits, and they're going to have parking, and they're going to have to deal with water runoff. Those are all issues down the road. Tonight you're going to hear a lot of people get up and talk about parking and noise and all these other things, but quite honestly, this church has been in that community since 1957 is when it was built. So pretty much everybody that lives in the neighborhood moved to the neighborhood where the church is located. It just so happens that the church is a little more popular than it may have been, 10 years ago or even 5 years ago for that matter. But again, there should be a reasonable pathway for growth. And I think that what's been recommended by the staff is a reasonable pathway. And we ask you to then adopt their recommendation. And if you have any questions.
Has there been any plans submitted to the property for what they're looking to do in order for the text amendment to be required?
There was a plan with the application for the special use extension. There was just a very simple schematic drawing of a proposed church that would be, take up that entire vacant lot, which is
On the north side of the building?
on the south side of the building.
On the south side of the building.
Yeah, on the south side of the building. It was just a rendering, really. It's not a plan. The church is not at a point of making that type of a plan in detail.
It's just assuming the need for more space for a larger building on that property, is I'm assuming.
When you put it on paper, you can't meet the 35-foot setbacks.
No, I understand.
So it became quite obvious, working with staff, that was a non-starter. So it became, well, let's work around that. How can we come up with a reasonable workaround? And I think, again, due to the special characteristics of churches and the unique architecture, it made for a reasonable recommendation. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Is the size of the church today, the buildings that you have there, are the same as it was in 1957?
I wasn't here in 1957, I'm sorry.
You got any old pictures?
I think some other people could address that question.
I just
don't.
wondered if it started with a small sanctuary and then building after building was put back.
I don't think it's been added on to, but I don't know. I
So
know
there's no new construction?
There's an existing part of the building that's not the sanctuary.
Yes,
Okay?
that's right.
And that sits back off of Pine Street.
Was that there in 57?
I believe that's been there since 1950.
If
You'd
we
have
we
to
can't
come-
have comments from the audience at this time.
We'll be able
Thank
to
you.
address those questions. There's people a lot smarter than me that know those. I just don't know enough about the history of the property.
Please come forward if you'd like to answer the questions. Brett.
So it's been there for a while, and the church has configured, the size of it has been there since that time, so.
If I can add something for the benefit of, for this particular agenda item, I understand we're asking about the conceptuals and the different information very pertinent to his property or this particular property. However, the zoning text amendment covers all churches, all schools within the zoning district. So we can't look at it specifically as just this property. We have to look at it from all properties within the R2 zoning district. So just a reminder, unless staff sees it any different way.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you for that comment. And I just want to urge you to please make this decision based upon this very reasonable request, as opposed to looking at parking and all the other issues that may come up. Because those will have to be addressed if there's going to be a building built. That all has to be addressed, but that doesn't have to be addressed tonight.
I do understand what you're saying.
Thank
The
you.
site plan process is a later on down the road.
correct.
Stormwater, parking, you name it, it all has to be addressed, and the project will not get approved unless those things are actually addressed beforehand.
And they will be addressed. If there's ever anything like that, they will be addressed. They'll have to be.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
No, I appreciate understanding, I've been a developer and contractor, that you don't want to go out and spend $100,000 on a set of plans until you get the problem resolved so you can move forward to part two of the conversation.
Exactly.
So, yes, thank you.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we will open it up to public participation. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the Planning and Zoning Board. I do understand a lot of folks are here tonight to speak on this agenda item. What I would recommend for everyone's time is if you hear somebody else speaking about one particular point of the issue, to hopefully maybe not repeat that over and over and over again. However, it is your time. You have 3 minutes, just considering everybody else's time. So if you'd like to start, name and address for the record.
My name is Gina Alaka-Furl, and I live at 628 South Pine Street with my husband, John. We live directly across from the parking lot north entrance to the organization in question. I would like to point out that Mr. Thompson just said something pretty profound, that it's a special place. We live in a special place. The Central Beach is a special place. I have a conceptual plan here that was submitted to the planning department and we got a hold of, and what it essentially adds to the existing property is a 9,000 square foot piece of property that would house over 800 people. We, as you know, live in an R2 low-density district. Mr. Thompson also alluded that people would be talking about parking. Currently, the organization can park about 70% of the people that attend every weekend for currently 2 services, and they're looking to do another one. As a resident that lives just across the street, our lives are impacted by that, and I would hate to see the R2 designation for all of the areas of New Smyrna Beach be low density 6 days or less a week. Is that what we're going to put on the code? This special exception, really, there's no differentiation between the fed, state, county, city, country clubs, and golf courses, along with the 2 other items that are on there, 2 other organizations. So I don't want to go back to 1969 when these regulations were 10 feet or whenever they changed. If the regulations are changed to be 10 feet, the organization in question will be able to have pretty much the same rights building as a residential homeowner, because they are planning on conjoining the land between 629 and 645. And on the south side of the building, the proposed building on this plan, there's a 15-foot setback. Well, as a homeowner, I have to have a 7.5-foot setback on either side. The 10-foot setback at the back of the building is insufficient at this point with the right-of-ways, and as Mr. Thompson also pointed out, the water issues that we have. And
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sure.
Your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
I very much appreciate your comments, though.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so I'm John Ferlin, Gina's husband. Same place, 628 South Pine Street. I'm here to voice my strong opposition to this plan, the text amendment. I think if it's passed, it'll be a dangerous precedent. Zoning code is clear and intentional. It says the R2 district is single-family residential district for low population densities. Alterations and restrictions made between 2006 and 2008 to the comprehensive plan future land use language for Central Beach were intentional to restrict non-residential uses in order to stabilize the neighborhood, relieve traffic congestion, and address encroachment. If you take a literal semantic interpretation of LDR 50401B, it says provisions exist for additional regulations and uses, but there is no provision seeking reductions or reduction of exceptions. This proposal will allow non-residential entities to encroach in R2 zones. The existing clause provides no date of construction. The reduced setbacks to a minimum of 10 foot or no closer than the existing structure on the property conflicts with a non-residential growth intent, permits direct attachment to existing buildings, and are inconsistent with other R-zone exceptions. The buffer change seems designed to completely bypass 604.04, and the result is aligned with the applicant's whim to overturn 20 years of zoning policy regulations to their primary benefit. They want to build a 9,000 square foot building, as we pointed out. That is 6 times the size of my house, 10 times the size of any other house in the neighborhood. The Brannan Center, for comparison, is an 8,000 square foot facility. New construction may adhere to modern building codes, but the sheer scale will exacerbate stormwater runoff, hurricane flooding negatively impacting surrounding properties, creating additional stress and financial burden. They already have and will continue to reduce property values, but increase traffic in our neighborhood. Clearly, the velocity of the applicant's growth has exceeded their footprint. It is improbable this applicant will meet all the LDR 604 required improvements, especially for parking. They know that. And they're going to need to buy another 5 to 7 properties, take those off the tax rolls. That's how it's, it's no other way at this point. They may attempt to blame the city if we get past this point and say, well, you let us do this so far, maybe we need another exception in order to get our next stage. People have a hard time saying anything to this property owner. They already have a code complaint against their sign since March of 2023, and there's been no addressing of that. While this addresses some context for this particular neighborhood, this is something that will happen in other neighborhoods. Right now, R2, could be R1, could be R1A, whatever, all the other R districts. For the love of God and people, I urge you to deny this text amendment. It's too pervasive and broad. Upholding the original intent of the exception in the R2 zoning district is crucial.
Thank you for your time.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Minhas. I am the owner of 649 South Pine Street. I happen to work in gender-based violence and victim advocacy, and I want to just acknowledge that words matter. I think that the applicant who just came to speak, his attempt to gaslight, dismiss, and diminish the residents' needs and valid concerns should be noted. He mentioned that the applicant is not intending to build a school, but if you look at the application, it is written out that they intend to go from K to 3, starting with 54 students and moving up to K to 5. So that is in the application. My grandfather was a World War II veteran who later worked for APHIS for more than 35 years, and of all the places they could have moved in the world, they decided to move to South Cooper Street and South Pine Street, and that is where I grew up. The applicant, in regards to the school, the applicant is asking the city to treat one unverified claim that the school may have briefly operated in a corner of the existing building 2 decades ago as if it were proof for continuous educational use. Was it even an actual school, which the statute requires, rather than a daycare or a home school, which don't qualify? We have no idea because their claim has no public record, no Department of Education registration, no certificate of occupancy, no fire marshal inspections, yet it is being leveraged as the foundation for the citywide text amendment that would permanently reduce protections in every R2 neighborhood. This is not continuity, it is misrepresentation. And the impact of this representation for all of us, what is being presented as a minor adjustment for one building in one corner is in fact a proxy for unregulated expansion, a 100-seat venue, which I guess could be not bizarre, multiple new parcels, and a precedent that any R2 commercial entity could invoke. If the applicant truly believed in the legitimacy of using its pre-existing school claim as a basis for its actions, it would have filed for a special exception as the ordinance requires. Instead, they are seeking to rewrite the law. That is not how the city preserves its integrity in zoning codes, in city ordinances, or in the comprehensive plan. This is how you open up the door to unchecked institutional sprawl in residential neighborhoods. I object to the proposed text amendment change, and I am asking you, the Planning and Zoning Board, to reject this proposed text amendment change. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Glenn Gracom. I live at 651 South Pine Street. And I believe the applicant's proposal to change the 35-foot setback requirement to 10 feet would be detrimental to the residents in New Smyrna Central Beachside District. I've lived a few houses down from the applicant's property for 33 years. In the last 10 years or so, there has been a marked increase in traffic on my street. And I could attribute that mainly to the popularity of the Flagler Avenue district and the fact that South Pine Street is one of the few through streets on Beachside. It goes all the way from Flagler to 2nd Avenue. Even heavier and stop traffic occurs when the applicant's property is being used for its primary purpose. During these times, it is difficult for residents to back out cars onto South Pine Street. This has become a concern in the last few years as attendance at the applicant's facility has vastly increased. While the applicant's facility as it exists today does not cause traffic and backing out problems, it is being tolerated. You know, we can put up with it the way it is right now, but the main concern is what will happen if the minimum setback requirement is changed to 10 feet and a larger facility is built. Along with the larger facility comes an increase in attendance and an increase in uses and activities being held on a daily basis. Residents surrounding the applicant's property did not move into this quaint section of New Smyrna Beach with the idea of having large structures built as little as 10 feet from their property line and having to deal with daily heavy traffic. The proposed change to the setback from 35 feet to 10 feet should be denied for these reasons. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, hello, and good evening. My name is Samuel Leonard. I live at 627 Yupon Ave. I'm strongly opposed to the text amendment proposed by the applicant and the property owner at 629 South Pine. It is rather obvious that their proposal is accompanied by an intention to expand their existing facilities in order to accommodate a significant increase in their number of weekly parishioners. I believe this would be highly detrimental to the already burdensome traffic and parking congestion caused by the large number of people who regularly attend their weekly events. South Pine Street is rendered virtually impassable as guests attempt to leave their building every week as it currently stands. This problem would extend to the majority of properties that would be affected by this text amendment, as most of them are similarly situated. In addition to this, allowing these facilities to extend construction beyond what would normally be allowed within an area zoned R2 would violate the nature of the neighborhoods that this zoning was intended to preserve. A calm and spacious, low-density area not disturbed by the noise of large populations and large looming industrial structures. I recognize that the text amendment is strictly intended to focus on, well, the setback, but I believe that it is not wise to ignore the slippery slope that this would lead to, which is the obvious intention on expansion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Diane Brown, 633 Yupon Avenue. I respectfully ask the board to not recommend approval. The review process ordinance requires a written report confirming the amendment change is consistent with the comprehensive plan and LDR. Apparently that has not been done. In my layperson's reading of the CP and LDR, this text change is blatantly contrary to the intention of an R2 zone. By intent, there are only a few non-residential, non-tax-paying special exceptions allowed in the R2 zone. It's clearly delineated that the condition for their existence within the R2 is the 35-foot setback. That was put into place for a reason, to protect and preserve the character of the R2 neighborhoods. The intention to preserve the character of the neighborhood is a keystone of the city plan. Let me tell you about the special character of our beloved corner of Central Beach, which incorporates the property owner requesting this amendment. It's a quiet enclave of predominantly one-story mid-century houses, blessed by the shade of a majestic corridor of historic oaks. We have relatively little traffic most days on Yupon Avenue. There is more foot traffic than cars. Many residents have lived there for 30 years or more. For many newer residents, it was their dream to move to our neighborhood, where in a few minutes walk you can be at the beach, the river, Flagler, or Publix. It's a sanctuary where we can enjoy a peaceful island lifestyle buffered from the stresses of the world. Conversely, the property owner plans to build a 9,000 square foot auditorium that would span purportedly from Pine Street to Yupon Avenue. The auditorium is planned for the stated purpose of drawing thousands of non-resident visitors to our small neighborhood, where the main access point is already congested by the patronage of 2 popular restaurants. Clearly, this would be a nightmare of traffic, parking problems, and disruption to our otherwise peaceful neighborhood. There would be no benefit to the residents, but rather a significant negative impact. When they presented their plan to P&Z in 2023, they were told a 35-foot setback would be a, quote, tight squeeze, and they would need to apply for a variance. It's obvious to me this text amendment is a way to avoid the rigorous variance process. And with no explanation as to why it is needed or beneficial to the community, it seems to me to be for the sole benefit of this non-residential, non-tax-paying property owner. If passed, it would be a very dangerous precedent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Fitzgerald, and I live at 626 South Pine Street with my current wife. Possibly to everyone's relief, I'm going to confine my remarks to making only one point. I would preface this by saying that I've conveyed the following views personally to Pastor Khalil when he visited us recently. I'd also add that as far as we're concerned, the church has generally been a good neighbour. In terms of the motion before the board tonight, which is clearly step one in a much larger project, one party, the applicant, has everything to gain, and the other party, the residents of the immediate area, will lose in many ways. The residents, who are taxpayers and voters, already experience significant disruption on Sundays, and with expansion, this would also likely to occur in future on other days. The applicant, exempt from taxes, would greatly expand their existing operations, but at the expense of the residents. This decision is easy. It is clearly unfair and one-sided, and I would strongly urge you board members to vote no. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Donna Kine-Cannon. I am a neighbor of the 629 Pine Street property. I am here tonight to express my strong opposition of the proposed text amendment. This amendment will allow a non-residential new development with a capacity of up to 800 participants in a 9,000 square foot facility that has already been established. Adjacent to this existing 200-plus person facility, right in the middle of a small residential neighborhood. The scale of this proposed expansion is completely out of proportion with the character of our community. Property values depend on preserving residential quality of life, peace, safety, and accessibility. Introducing a facility that would draw hundreds of participants and vehicles at once threatens to undermine that stability. Families looking to buy in the neighborhood will think twice when they see overcrowded streets, congestion, and overflow parking spilling onto residential blocks. Less demand for homes directly translates to lower property values. By the way, I did not mention I am born and raised here in New Smyrna Beach and a 40-year real estate broker. Our neighborhood is already strained by traffic from 2nd Avenue, restaurants like the Garlic and Norwoods, along with the bars, boutiques, and dining destinations along Flagler Avenue. This area is already dealing with overcrowding and heavy vehicular traffic. Adding a development that could bring in hundreds more vehicles on a daily basis will only worsen the problem, create unsafe conditions for pedestrians, cyclists, and children. I would strongly suggest reviewing the traffic reports and recorded incidents on Pine, 2nd, 3rd, Goodwin, and Yupon Avenue. to gain a clear understanding of how overflow traffic is bleeding into the neighborhood. There have been numerous documented cut-through accidents, and in one of the worst cases that I witnessed, a driver actually crashed through a home located in the 500 block of South Pine. That home was demolished. Let that sink in. These are not abstract concerns. They are real, documented threats to our safety. Equally troubling is the assemblage of properties. Piece by piece, this entity is creating a larger and larger non-residential footprint in what has always been a residential neighborhood. This kind of expansion raises the possibility of new alleys, cut-through access from street to street, or even future road easements. Once the door is open, it fundamentally changes the character of the neighborhood and permanently alters how traffic flows through our residential streets. Approving this amendment does not just impact one property. It sets a precedent that opens the door for organizations across New Smyrna Beach and beyond to challenge zoning protections in every residential district. If this amendment is approved, it will be very difficult to argue against future development of similar or even larger scale.
Thank you
that
for your
undermines
comments,
the
ma'am.
integrity of our zoning code and erodes the rights of the
Ma'am, we
citizens
need to continue
across
on
our
with other
city.
residents. Thank you very much, though, for your comments.
Hello, I'm Betsy Cavana, and I live at 507 Yupon. I'm also representing my sister, Alice Hunt, who lives at 644 Yupon. My late husband has owned the 507 Yupon house since 1983. And as we have watched much growth in New Smyrna, our quiet neighborhood has remained charming and has historic characteristics. My house is a good example of that. It was built in 1926. I'm here to request that you, the board, not approve the request of the non-residential developer to change the R2 zoning, which if this is allowed to do, if this is allowed, then the entity will build a 9,000 square foot structure, parking to accommodate 800 people, and this will stress the residential neighborhood from a parking, traffic, flooding, and future development perspective. A structure of this size, which is surrounded by residential properties, using a well-known expression which was said earlier tonight, would look like a sour thumb in our neighborhood. The zoning change will have a very negative impact, allowing future developers to request setback changes in beachside neighborhoods. The result will be NSB beachside neighborhoods will no longer be quiet, charming, or historic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wade Whitaker. I reside on 631 Yupon Avenue. The board is requested to not give a positive recommendation for the proposed text amendment based on the following concerns, which resulted from a review of the review and summary prepared by the planning and zoning staff. There are 4 comments, and interestingly, you guys voiced 2 of my concerns tonight. Number 1, the proposed text amendment is too far-reaching in that property contiguous to all NSB schools and churches and R2 residential zones could be adversely affected. I have not heard any residents from any other property owners, schools, and so forth that are represented here tonight. So if you approve this change, how in the heck are they going to know? That's strange. So they will have not had an opportunity to voice their concerns. Number 2, no explanation has been provided by the planning department staff as to what circumstances have changed since the pre-2008 decision to increase the initial setback of 10 feet to 35 feet. Without a clear rationale, there is no basis to undo the earlier deliberate policy decision. Number 3, the staff report findings attempt to justify adopting the text amendment by suggesting it would be consistent with other structures permitted as special exceptions. However, this conclusion is incorrect. There is no special exception for other structures in Zone R2, nor is there any provision that allows other non-residential structures of any kind in Zone R2. And last, The review in summary is inadequate and in that it does not address required by the Code of Ordinance 305.02, specifically consistency with land development restrictions, availability of municipal services to the subject property, and consistency with the goals, objectives, and policy of the comprehensive plan. Not addressing these issues could be perceived as a decision that is arbitrary and capricious. In summary, the proposal evaluation prepared for your review appears to be insufficient for you to render a fully informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Richard Brown. I live at 633 Yupon Avenue. This amendment is inconsistent with our city's code. It is based on faulty findings. It unfairly benefits a single applicant at the expense of the entire neighborhood. I respectfully ask the board to reject it. I also support the comments made earlier by other residents in opposition and ask that their remarks be incorporated into mine. As has been said before, every amendment must be consistent with the city land development regulations and comprehensive plan. This proposal fails that test. The R2 zoning code was written to preserve the character of our neighborhoods. This amendment does the opposite. Many residents here tonight have clearly described the significant and permanent irreversible harm this amendment will cause to our neighborhoods, while it provides no benefit to the neighborhoods or to the R2 zone. The code is supposed to protect the community, not carve out exceptions. On paper, the 35-foot setback for new construction on church and school property would remain in place, but in practice, it would go away. It would never be applied again because all the church properties already have existing property. That effectively erases the 35-foot rule. Error in findings. You heard it said before, there is reference in the report that there are already allowances for closer setbacks in other categories in the special structures, setbacks. There are no commercial structures in the special exceptions section. There are only government facilities, churches and schools with special setback requirements, and child daycare on church property. The setbacks that were referred to by the planning board are those incorporated in the government facility section, not in the church section. There also was a comment that by passing this amendment, those churches that are not complying would go into compliance. You already have a non-conforming, pre-existing element in the zoning code. We don't need to take care of those properties that are not within the 35-foot setback. And we cannot deny, as was said even by the applicant, their applications for a variance to do the things they want to do have already been denied through the normal zoning process. This is an attempt to get their change by a runaround.
We appreciate your comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'm Linda Woodard at 628 Yupon, and I'm right behind 629 Pine Street. Tonight I'm asking the board to vote no, as this request isn't a standalone one, which you discovered, because they are planning to have an addition that, like what everyone said, could hold up to 800 people, which is not a minuscule number, especially in an R2 neighborhood. I covered 2 of their pre-app meetings in 2023, where big plans were discussed, but now I have an even more personal stake in that I am next to the house that the applicant's client bought on Yupon, which was one of their steps in 2023. When I asked if it was going to be torn down, I was told not yet, but it was in the future plans. So I'm definitely worried for their future plans will affect mine as well. But getting back to the application, Exhibit B shows a map already established special exceptions regarding schools and churches in the R2 zone that may be affected by the change. You know, when these institutions opened, they had followed the regulations that were needed for that time period and locale. And changing an entire code because one institution property owner created its own problem with its desire to expand could wreak havoc over our entire city's unique R2 neighborhoods if others decided to follow suit. Exhibit A explicitly shows the intent of 504.02, and part of it reads, the R2 single-family residential district is intended to be single-family residential district for low population densities. Existing development and usage has resulted, which is being preserved in order to stabilize the neighborhood. And this exhibit, intent, is the key word, as every zone has its own distinct intent, for it's part of our foundation as a testament to the collective will of our community, which would protect our property values, promote our overall well-being, and strive for a better tomorrow. And I was taken aback when I read it, for it has already been slowly eroded even before you vote. Regarding the first sentence, since 629 Pine is considered an assembly commercial building, which is different from government exceptions, our permanent density will remain low, but the temporary increase due to the assembly is growing. It will be permanent and will never stop. Regarding the second sentence, the existing development and usage we are now experiencing from 629 has not preserved what was, nor what has kept our neighborhood stable, for there has been a huge increase in people and vehicles, along with noise concerns, where there have been 3 complaints to the police, and light pollution, especially when events are being held. And I had given photos of my house and what light comes into it when this happens. I lived here since 1998, and the flooding really began when the parking lot was paved.
Excuse me, ma'am. Your time is up.
Okay, thank
But
you.
thank you very much for your comments.
Hi, my name's David Philpott. I live at 205 Oak Street here in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. I'm a member of Beachside Baptist Church. I'm also an officer, so I speak with some authority on this matter. This is just one step in many steps in this process. And I ask you to consider this, just that, like our attorney said today. We're doing this because there's a need. There's a lot of misinformation that's out there right now on what our future expansions are, how we're going to do it. And then we just want to fulfill the need of the community that's in this area. It was mentioned today, taxpayers, we don't pay taxes, but all our members are locals. They live in the area, they do pay taxes, and this is a need for the city, the community, and that area itself. There will be chances in the future for this board, the citizens, and our church to address any issues with the mitigation of water, which we've improved in that area. We have not hurt, we've actually improved in our recent development. You know, that we built a playground there, we've actually improved on the water consumption that we take and allow it to absorb back into the ground level. Our parking situations, we've improved, we've worked on that. Our lighting situation, we improved. Our community, we work even with our police department, with local schools, with other churches in this community. We are a good neighbor in this community. I ask you just please consider this step. We have no other choice. We were told that this is the only option that we have. If there was another option that was available to us, we would be taking it to expand. Right now, our goal is not to build a monstrosity that's going to stand out like a sore thumb. I appreciate your time, but there will be plenty of opportunities for these problems, these questions to be resolved. But this is just the first step, and I ask you please approve this for us and for our church. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Donnie Sparks, 2907 Hardy Avenue, New Smyrna Beach. I just wanted to reiterate that what was just said, that I know the church doesn't pay taxes there, but I live in New Smyrna. I have a couple of properties here we do pay taxes for, so we are contributing to this as well. There's a gigantic need for us as the church body. It's wonderful to have a church that is growing so much and people seeking after this. It's exciting for us to need a larger area, a larger platform to be able to speak. So I want you guys just to think about that, the ladies to think about that. We do a lot for this community. We help people. I'm sure there are plenty of people we could get to stand up here after floods where we were assisting and helping people. We are a good group of people just trying to help our community. There's lots of things that we do. I feel that we are pretty good neighbors. I know that we have traffic on Sundays. It's not a daily occurrence. I know that it's probably 3 hours in between services where traffic sometimes can get busy. We try to move it as quick as we can to keep people not getting frustrated. I know it's tough for the residents. I live, again, in New Smyrna. I live up by the airport. When I moved there 28 years ago, it was pretty quiet. There weren't a lot of planes, but things have changed, and unfortunately, I don't want to sound mean saying it, but I mean, we have to deal with change. I mean, things occur in our neighborhoods and in our areas that we live in. And I just feel like this is a gigantic need for our community, for New Smyrna Beach, and this could help grow that for a group of people that want to help other people. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Larry Whittington, 2903 Hardy Avenue, Donnie's next door neighbor. I'm also the director of operations at Beachside Church, so I didn't even know I was going to speak. I kind of got signaled at the last minute over there, but I just wanted to say that Beachside has had a huge impact in the local community and in New Smyrna at large. I'm a lifelong resident of New Smyrna Beach. I grew up here, joined the Army, spent 25 years in the Army, and came right back to my hometown. This is a place that I love, and this is the community that I love. And what Beachside is doing, the way that it's impacting our community is, I know this is a city council meeting, but to me, and I think to the Christians in the room, clearly God working in our community. So I'm thrilled to be part of it. I pray for our neighbors. As a matter of fact, many of the neighbors, some that spoke, and many of our neighbors in the Central Beach, I've lived here so long I didn't even know it was called the Central Beach. We used to just call it Beachside. But many of our neighbors, I've been in their homes after the storms. I've pulled drywall and flooring, and our church team has done the same thing. We're a caring church. We're part of the community. We consider it our home. I look forward to, if there's fractured relationships in the neighborhood as the director of operations, I look forward to working on those fractured relationships too. I think if the community sees the heart of our church, they're going to want more of it, not less of it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Southeast Lucia Chamber of Commerce, 115 Canal Street. Good evening, board members, city staff, and dignitaries present. Thank you for your time and your continued service to our city. Your work plays a vital role in shaping New Smyrna Beach, and we truly appreciate your dedication. My name is Ashley Powers, and I'm here on behalf of the Southeast Lucia Chamber of Commerce. We represent over 500 businesses across New Smyrna Beach, Edgewater, and Oak Hill, and have served as the voice of business in our region for more than 93 years. Our 16-member board of directors includes leaders from a wide range of industries: manufacturing, healthcare, hospitality, real estate, education, and more, giving us a well-rounded perspective on community needs and priorities. Tonight, the Chamber is here to support the proposed amendment to Section 502.02 of the city's land development regulation, case ZT-7-2025, which would allow flexibility and setback requirements for existing houses of worship within the R2 zoning districts. Faith-based and educational institutions are essential to the social and civic life of our community. They are more than structures. They are places of support, service, and belonging. Beachside Baptist Church, for example, has been a cornerstone of Pine Street since the 1960s. consistently serving local families and neighbors. As our city continues to grow, this amendment allows for thoughtful, modest improvements that support the missions of these long-standing institutions. The Chamber supports smart, balanced growth, development that respects the character of our neighborhoods while meeting the evolving needs of the people who live here. We commend the Planning Department for its recommendation and believe this amendment reflects that vision. We respectfully urge this board to issue a favorable recommendation to the City Commission. Thank you again for your time and for your commitment to improving the quality of life here in New Smyrna Beach. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is James Berry. I live at 1711 Magnolia Street in New Smyrna Beach, and did not have prepared comments for this, but I did hear a lot of misinformation as what was discussed. The one piece that jumped out at me a lot, and I don't know where the people got the misinformation about adding 800 people to a 9,000 square foot building. I am a general contractor. I have 2 churches under construction in Volusia County right now in Port Orange. One of them is 9,000 square feet. The other one is 12,400 square feet. Both of those seat a little over 300 people. There are a lot of other spaces within a building that does not contribute to the size of how many people that particular building can seat. So I haven't seen the design, the finished design in this building yet, as Mr. Thompson mentioned earlier. It's too early in the process, and as I believe Mr. Hodges mentioned earlier, you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on something that you can't go forward with. So the extreme details have not been finished. Just a sketch has been done on where it might lay out on the property. But 800 people in 9,000 square feet, that church is not being designed, I guarantee you that. It's more like, I think 300 is a more reasonable number from what I've seen already being built in the county. Appreciate all your attention, and thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Charlene Thomas, and I live at 638 South Pine Street, directly across the street from the church. First of all, I'm happy the church is growing. I think they're good people. I have nothing bad to say about them, other than that they're growing so big, they're getting ridiculous. I have troubles getting in and out of my driveway on Sundays, and when they have their other special things going on. You know, it's a church, they do a lot of stuff. I'm worried about, number one, can EVAC get to me if they need to? On Sundays, people have to walk in the road on Pine Street because there's not a sidewalk on the side where the church is, and they're all parking there trying to fit people in on the grass. So the kids and the moms, everybody's walking on the street. That's not safe. And number two, I understand they own property somewhere else. Why don't they build on that property if they want to get bigger? It's great they're growing, yay. But don't do it in our little tiny neighborhood that used to be quiet and quaint and safe. And I have the proposed building they were talking about building. Can I give it to you guys to look at?
If you like
That's all I
to
got to
present
say.
it to our clerk.
Vote
you're
no.
welcome
We
to.
don't need any more big stuff.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mariah Parker, 634 Yukon. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. I'm here as a concerned resident about the verbiage. Our current zoning clearly states that its purpose is to stabilize the neighborhood and enhance the prospects for orderly future residential development. I really don't feel that that intent should be undermined by vague or overly permissive language. If we look at the proposed wording, it states no closer than the existing structures on the property. And on the surface, that does seem harmless, but there's a different reality. If you look at the photos that I have provided, their shed is a mere 18 inches from my property line. Their air conditioning units are 46 inches, and the rear wall of their building is only 89 inches. Approving this language as written would effectively grant permission for an 18-inch setback. That's completely out of step with the intent of the zoning and coding and what is appropriate for our small residential neighborhood. I urge you to please preserve the integrity of our zoning laws, uphold the current rules as written. Our neighborhood depends on your leadership to protect it from the incremental changes that over time can dramatically alter the character and livability of a neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize, I did not have enough copies for everyone. I will.
Good evening, James Kern.
Electronic.
I live at 510 South Indian River Road. I'm not a member of the church, but I did start attending there in the last few months. And I personally think it's been an awesome experience to be able to walk to church. It's unfortunate there's so many neighbors that have such a, anti-church view of what's happening and their attitude towards this. That community there at the church has been nothing but outreach and kindness to my family, and to be able to walk there with my kids has been a real privilege. The topics have gone from things like them owning other property, which I'm a real estate developer. I happen to know they don't own any other property, and they already have buildings that are within 10 feet of the property line. They're not looking to make that any worse or do anything else. They're trying to expand their reach to the community, to serve the community. That church has been there, I'm pretty sure, longer than anybody in this room has lived in that area. Everybody moved there with that church there, and their concerns about property values, had a real estate license since 1983. Many areas, home values go up, walking distance to an outreach, growing congregation of whether it's a church or the synagogue or what have you. I think it's unfortunate that there's so much animosity about it, because I know that this church and their pastor have a heart for the community, and they want to do good things for the community and grow their position and be there to serve more people. So, as you know, the issue is simply being able to use your existing facility and improve it so that everybody else benefits from it. And there may be traffic on Sunday. It may be 15 minutes of bad traffic at the turnover of the start and the finish of a service. I can't believe that out of 7 days and 24 hours a week, that's a massive problem for anybody. So I hope you approve it. There's a long way to go, a lot of steps that have to go to build a building, to do it right, to not flood people, not lower values, etc. So I hope you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy Snezak, 512 Yukon. I'm glad the church is doing well. I live in that general neighborhood, so I walk those streets.
If you don't mind speaking a little louder
Yeah.
for us with the rain.
I live in that general neighborhood, and I walk those streets. And I'm really glad the church is doing well. I know they allow AA meetings there. I don't know how often the nursery is used, but that's part of that too. But the reality is, based on all the things you heard from people who are having angst over this, is perhaps the church has outgrown the footprint. And if we're talking about something that's expanding so dramatically, then maybe there's other locations for it. I know the name says Beachside, but as one of the women said, I'm sorry, it's getting late in the day, they've already purchased a home on Yupon. So that allows for punch through. And I think she said, in response to her question, it's not being torn down yet. I know at least 2 other property owners have been approached adjacent to those parcels to purchase. So it sounds like the plans are much larger than perhaps the attorney would like you to believe. But my biggest objection and reason for you to deny this tonight, send it back for the department to do some much needed research on this, is the language that specifically says no closer than existing building. Because I, like the young lady, went in that shed's either with 12 inches away from the property line or 18 inches away. And as she knows, the church vestibule building is less than 10 feet. So the language is inappropriate. So if staff hasn't gone out there to measure, they really should, because this language has holes in it that really open us up to losing that neighborhood. So, you can always add sidewalks and all that, but there's lots of other specifics here that just don't make a lot of sense. So they want the setback reduced. I understand it, I don't agree with it, but the buffering that's being discussed is either a fence or landscaping. Well, if you should go forward with this very bad idea, it should be both, because you're talking about a lot of, there's got to be parking somewhere, and that lot that they already own that's adjacent to them, they use for parking. So that alone requires to be taken for the sanctuary, and that lot behind it, which has already been purchased on Yupon, I can't imagine what that would be. So we're not just talking about Pine Street. I know only Pine Street stood up and spoke tonight, but, and Mr. Mathan talked about 7 properties that don't meet the 35-foot setbacks, but he didn't tell you what setbacks they do have. And I'm willing to bet you dollars to donuts, they're not 10 feet. So the last I'll end with is that property is surrounded on all 4 sides by single-family, single-story homes. I doubt there's another location in the
Thank
city
you for
that's
your
that.
comments.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Larry White. I live at 805 Silk Oak Court, New Smyrna Beach. We've been members of this church for about 4 years. We've experienced its growth. But I want to tell you, it has touched a lot of families in this area. It's meant so much to people on Beachside that wasn't being addressed and is now. It's changed a lot of kids' lives. My wife and I have a home Bible study. And I want to tell you, a lot of seniors are being ministered to that otherwise would not be. I think this board needs to look at what this church is doing and what any church is doing here in New Smyrna and try to help them, try to make it affordable for them to continue to flourish, because that's going to be the backbone of any community. And Beachside is doing what it's supposed to be doing, loving people and loving God. And that's all we're about. And that's all we're ever going to be about. And we do need to expand some. We need to accommodate those that want to continue to come and be ministered to. But I just want to let you know that this church is doing everything it possibly can with what it's got to meet the needs of the people living in this community. I thank you, and I plead for you to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is John Stearns. I want to thank the board. For those of you that don't know, excuse me, you presented me with a proclamation for running Aqua Park, being a teacher at Chisholm Elementary, being a teacher at Faulkner Street when it was a school, for working part-time for the city of New Smyrna, and now I'm a member of Beachside. As you can tell, my focus is with the youth, the children. This last summer, we had a surf program that serviced for a week over 200 children. Last year, I think there were 150 children. All I can say is, as a senior citizen, the church has provided for me. They offered to help put up hurricane shutters. They got me involved in helping clean up after the hurricane for citizens further out by Home Depot. All I can say, it's been a big part of my life, and it's growing. You heard, we're growing, we're expanding, and I want to be a part of it. So I hope you will honor the request and be part of the family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron Brigham, 634 Yupon Avenue. I would ask you guys to vote no for this. I do support churches, and I think churches provide a very valuable service to the community. However, it contradicts the low-density intent of the R2 zoning, no justification for reversing past policy, negative impacts on residents, incomplete and inadequate staff review, flood and storm risk unresolved, conflict of interest. In conclusion, this amendment benefits a single applicant at the expense of surrounding residents and the neighborhoods. It undermines the integrity of the R2 low-density zone and should not be approved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ken Perry. I live at 742 Pine Shore Circle. This church is amazing. I know there's always rules, regulations that you're looking at and trying to, and I sympathize with what everybody residential are trying to do. But this church is growing. It's helping the community, and it's a heartbeat of the community. If you go back and look, we're getting back to basics and walking in the neighborhood and having that sense of communities, that sense of pride, being able to, that sense of refuge. If you need to come in and have somebody there to talk to, we're there. And just growing is making everybody understand that this church is something special. There is something going on in this church. And to make this, to say yes for this request, to move it forward. It's just one piece of what the process has to be. But just saying yes will allow us to continue the process down the road. It will allow us to be able to continue to be the heartbeat over on Beachside. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name's Travis Owens, 804 Bolton Road, New Smyrna Beach, Florida, 32168. I am a lifetime resident of New Smyrna Beach. Over 50 years I've lived in this city. I think you guys have heard a lot tonight, and I appreciate your time. I can't imagine what it's like sitting in those chairs. I don't want your job. But I will say this. I will say that you've heard all kinds of things tonight. The thing I want you to really take away from this is a church, a school. Those are cornerstones not only of the United States of America, of this country, but of this city. It's what it was built on. It's what it was founded on. It's what people believe in, and people need something to believe in. They all serve a purpose and a need. Churches and schools in this area, as you guys all are very well aware, are very taxed and they're very stressed. And they're put under constrictions. They're really, really difficult right now for any of those to grow and expand. And what you're seeing here at this church in particular, you're seeing that there's a need. This church is filling a need for this community. They're filling a need for people, whether it's an outreach for people who have addictions, whether it's for the youth with the surf camps and all of the events that this church does, whether it's Hearts and Hammers, something that we basically do, and we help people who cannot afford to fix their own homes, whether it's from a storm or just normal wear and tear. There's an outreach here with this church, but there's an outreach with all the churches in this community. And I think you guys all know that it's very difficult in this area to acquire property. This church does not own any other properties other than where it sits today and the piece of property that's right behind it. There's no other properties. We've looked, to be quite honest with you, we have looked for other properties around the city. For a church to be able to afford property in this city, I think you guys all well know, it's impossible. It is virtually impossible. So we are just looking and asking you to please allow us to continue to grow. Be a part of this community. Continue to help the members that live here. I can speak on traffic all day long. Again, I lived here when 44 was a 2-lane road and the South Causeway was a drawbridge and it was wood. So I can speak on traffic. I can't get out of my road every day. I live right off 44. Good luck. I think you guys all understand that. But that's not the point. The point is we're here today asking for your help. We need you to vote yes on this amendment so that we can continue to make a big impact with this community, from the youth all the way to the elderly. I thank you guys for your time, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Andy Silvers, 1100 South Atlantic. I wasn't planning on speaking. This is not my comfort zone at all. But I was just going to share a little story. So I have a rental property, and I was able to rent it to a woman from the Miami area. And I recommended Beachside Baptist to her, and she showed up on Sunday, and she shared to me just how great of an experience she had, and she just couldn't say enough good about her experience. She has a son that's in recovery. He's also going to join the church because that's a big part of Beachside Baptist, amongst so many other things, whether it's surf camp, helping folks in need when a hurricane comes. The list does go on and on. And my wife and I have been going to the church for almost 3 years, and it's impacted us immensely. And I just, the traffic thing is real. I hear their concerns, but it is just, fortunately, the traffic is on a Sunday. It's between 9 and 1 o'clock, and it's sporadic at best. There's a lot of people that help direct traffic, and we do park in other facilities to alleviate, whether it's at Norwoods or the local veterinarian has given us permission to park on his property. So we do a lot to alleviate the issues, and a lot of us have golf carts, and we shuttle people just to facilitate the need to be considerate to folks that live in the neighborhood. So again, the church is wonderful, and I thank everybody for listening to the good and the bad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harrison Bucklew, I live at 624 Yupon. This is about a text amendment. This is about changing something that was approved years ago in the planned amendment for the state of Florida and for the county. This is about doing something in a text amendment that should be changing the comprehensive plan instead. It was done back then after a long, serious consideration, and this is not about one incident. This is about that. And if we change that, and we change it for everybody, those kinds of things should be taken up in the proper manner, not through a text amendment. All those other words don't mean a whole lot. It's about the proper process. And that's what we should be considering. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward at this time? We'll give you an opportunity. Yep.
Good evening. James Hollitz, 2130 South Atlantic Avenue. I know everyone spoke about the parking, and I want to speak on the family. They say it takes a village, and this church has become my village. I moved down here 7 years ago, just me. Met a beautiful wife down here, had 2 amazing kids, and I can't speak enough for this church. It's my honor to stand up here and go to vouch for them the best I can, and I think my little Levi would say the same. All things considered, I think you guys should pass it, but thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing none, public participation is closed. And thank you, everyone, for your comments. City staff, do you have any further comments?
I'm just here in case there's any other additional questions from the board members.
Yes. Bob, if you move the offset from 35 feet to 10 feet, does that mean that a sanctuary or something of a size could be put 10 foot off of a residential property line?
Correct. So the goal of the applicant is to be able to build a structure 10 feet from the property line.
From a property line.
Which is where their existing buildings they have now is at 10 feet. That's the ultimate goal for them. If we need to tweak a little bit so that we don't have an 18-inch shed being the closest building, you know, the intent is nothing closer than 10 feet.
And this could be a building, you know, on different properties. This could be 18, 20, 22, 24 feet tall.
So the R2 zoning allows you to build up to 35 feet.
35 feet, okay.
Yes.
So
that's our minimum, maximum height in any zoning district is 35
so a residential, a resident that bought a piece of property close to a particular piece of property, there's several of them, and where the understanding would be that when they bought it, that what they see is what you get. You know what I mean? As far as what I'm trying to say is if you can put a 35-foot building 10 foot off of a residential property, I don't understand how that works for the existing residents.
Right.
You know,
So in the R2 zoning, you can build a single-family house 7.5 feet from the property line, 35 feet tall. So you could have house after house after house. Could be 35 feet tall, 7.5 feet from the property line. So that height is allowable no matter if this text amendment gets changed or not.
Right.
They still have a maximum height by right.
Yeah, but we're moving it 25 feet in?
For what they want to do is, their idea is for existing churches now that are non-conforming to the 35 feet, that if they want to build an addition to their buildings, that they can be as close as whatever their closest building is now, but no closer than 10 feet. So if your closest building is 25 feet, then you would have to build 25 feet. You can't build 10 unless you're already at 10 already. And if it was a vacant piece of property, you would have to build at 35, even with the change.
Interesting, thank you.
I have a question also. So really, is the 35 feet that's put in place right now, that's more or less was designed for the new churches to be built? And furthermore, what about if one of these churches over here on the west side, it's a 50-foot lot, 100-foot lot, they fire burns them down, what do they do? I mean, they can't, with 50, you take 35, you're gone.
Right. So we do have churches on the west side, and some may even be on the north side of town, that are on a 50-foot wide lot. If they was burnt down, or if they had come down because of a natural disaster, they could not rebuild their churches because they couldn't meet the 35-foot setback.
So we would not give them a variance to?
We can't grant variances on uses.
On uses.
Right. They attempted that. That application was rejected because you can't do a variance on a use. And if you have conditions of uses, you can't get variances for those conditions.
Okay, one more question. So the church could, this is a question I asked them too, could the church leave their building existing there where it sits and then expand it out to get a bigger sanctuary?
So the way the special exception works is that if you are an existing house of worship or church and you want to build an addition to your building, if you're going to build 1,500 square feet or more, you have to go back to the city commission for a special exception, even if you're an existing church. So if you do less than 1,500 square feet, you don't have to get that special exception. But when you apply for the special exception, there's criteria for that special exception, which means you got to meet 35. So if they wanted to put an addition to their building now, 1,500 square foot would be the limit. Anything more than that, they have to go back to city commission, and the code's going to require them, anything after that, to be 35 feet.
Bob, for this property, the lot
to the south of the church is vacant. Is that where they would be intending to build?
Correct.
And how far is the existing church building from the end of the property line of that lot?
I'm not sure how wide that property is, but it's at least 50 feet, if not more.
So if, let's say it was 50 feet.
Right.
They could build a 15-foot addition, 35-foot tall, because that would maintain 35-foot of setback from that property
Right.
line.
Correct. Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
because I think that's one of the things to consider. It's the mass.
Correct.
And one of the reasons for the 35-foot setback for what typically is a bigger building, in my opinion,
Right.
is knowing that there's R2, a lot of single-story houses, a lot of low density. Nobody wants to have somebody next door to them 8, 10 feet away. So, in writing the rules, the law, they said 35. Fine. That'll give a visual minimization to the mass difference between the new building and existing houses.
That's a correct statement.
Okay.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, is there a reason, and I'd imagine it probably came from the applicant, but the language is for existing churches only, or existing schools. Is there any reason that it wasn't open to all churches, all schools?
So, the question is, they could have made an application to strike the whole 35 feet altogether. And we felt that there would be more opposition if you took out the 35-foot citywide. And we felt that there'd be less opposition if it only pertained to churches that are existing, that were built here prior to the current code, but they're non-conforming, because we've put regulation in place to make them non-conforming. So they're asking for relief from being non-conforming, so they could be considered a conforming building. And it's not just their building. When staff looked at it, we know that they're an applicant. We've been meeting with them, what they would like to do. They have a wish list, but like all wish lists, by the time you get down to the nitty-gritty, that list gets a little smaller. You go buy a new car, you want the big fancy car, but the budget only gives you so much. In this case, they can only have so much because they still have to provide parking. The parking regulation, there's regulations in our code that allow you to have off-site parking, but you can't have 100% off-site. So whatever building they decide to build, whatever the occupancy is for that building, they're going to have to be able to show that they can provide a certain amount of parking. And we're going to determine that once they come in with a site plan and say, here's what we're going to build, it's what we can afford, it's what we feel we can meet. They may not be 10 feet from that south property line. They may be further away because they may not be able to build a building as large as they would like to. But they would like to have the option to even move forward to see if they can even do it. But without this code, they're dead in the water. There's no reason for them to pay for plans or conceptual plans if they know they can't build. And right now, the only way they could build, they have to buy all the houses behind them and around them. And then they're going to have, 2 acres, and they could probably meet the 35 then because there wouldn't be anybody around them. But they're trying to work within the guidelines of the property they own. I know they've accommodated some other properties. They're probably looking to probably be even more. But, as a planner, part of residential neighborhood is also to provide civic uses. And civic uses are schools, churches, parks, playgrounds, buildings for gymnasiums. And so, we could build that. We could build a Babe James Center where the church is, tear the church down, we could be 7.5 feet off the property line. As long as the commission budgeted it and says, hey, yeah, we want to build it, we could build it there. I think the city's been good stewards of the properties we own, and we've turned them into retention ponds. But, I'm not sure what future commissions are going to want to do, but they don't have to meet that 35 feet. So if we want to build one of our structures, maintenance building or whatever, county wants to build that, they would have a mosquito control building that storing pesticides next to houses. So, once you can build it, you can build it. They only have to be 7.5 feet off. So, you've heard it both sides tonight. I mean, I'm the one that draw the short straw to stand here tonight. But staff is seeking a recommendation, for a positive recommendation. And I think you got a 50-50 split out here. And so sometimes you have to make hard decisions. So,
Understood. Just an additional question based upon the all or just the existing churches. If we potentially pursue this existing churches only, does that open us up at all where we're, as a city, and this may get into legal a little bit, where we as a city are saying we favor existing religious organizations within our city And if you have a new church that wants to come in, we're saying, no, sorry, you have to meet a different setback than existing churches. So you're kind of favoring one religion over another.
Right.
I'm a little concerned about that and thought I would
I'd probably have
ask.
to refer that question to the legal
side.
department.
I'd say for purposes of this evening, that's outside the purview of what you're considering. It's a
Okay.
text amendment that is citywide. It's a legislative decision.
Mhm.
So you can consider all the comments that have been made tonight, staff's recommendation, and the language that's proposed in the text. I would not begin to hypothesize outside the scope of that and send yourself down some mental gymnastics you probably don't need to do tonight.
Okay. Any other questions of staff?
And if there needs to be a tweak in it so that we assure there's nothing closer than 10 feet, we can tweak that before it gets to the next level. We can give it the applicant and tweak that.
Last but not least, if you've got a resident that's up against this property, 7.5 foot in, if they have got their swimming pool probably there and/or possibly they put a structure, something they live in. Another 10 feet, so 17.5 foot from where that structure or that pool, they could be looking at a 35-foot tall building.
Yes. Just like they could be looking at a 35-foot tall house that's got plenty of windows to look down on their pool. So
Yeah.
the height itself is set by code, so there's no zoning districts in the city that are less than 35 feet or 3 stories. So
Any other questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
all right, well, thank you guys, and we'll leave it to the applicant to answer any other questions you have.
Okay, we'll have the applicant come back up. I understood he wanted to share a little bit more. And then if we have any additional questions,
Just wanted to thank you again.
if you don't mind speaking to the mic for us.
Just wanted to thank you again for your time and attention, and just draw back that this is not an application submitted by Beachside Baptist Church. It's an application that's submitted that will affect a number of other churches as well and schools. So I just wanted to also, if you had any questions, I wanted to be available if you need.
Appreciate it. Any questions of the applicant? Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that being said, discussion and/or questions by the board?
Can I say something? I know I can't vote on this item.
Completely understand.
Okay, and I'll make this very brief because I know it's been a very long night and everyone needs to get home. I did want to say a couple things about this because, in full transparency, because I do love that, I am a member of Beachside Baptist Church. Now, I've been a member for about 3 years, and I can attest that it has grown astronomically. It has brought people, old, young, everything. And I will say that the whole parking argument, a couple things. One, the majority of the people that are coming to the church, they're bringing a bunch of kids. That's why we started going there. And these kids aren't driving. You're talking about small little people. You're talking Sunday school services that have, 50 kids back there each service, and we have 2 going on to 3. So I don't think you'll see as big of a parking issue as some people think, just for that reason, because, 5-year-olds aren't driving. 2, the number of services, we talk about the traffic and the traffic there on Sunday and the parking, and, sometimes there's parking and you have to be shuttled by a golf cart or you have to walk with your family, and that's fine. But another idea to think, if for any reason something like this doesn't pass and the church stays, in the confines of where it is right now, there's nothing to stop them from having 6 services on Sunday. Expand it to Saturday. Now you're looking at way more traffic. It's going to be even longer, and there's nothing to stop them from doing that. So if they were allowed to expand in size, you might be able to go down to 1 service, and then maybe you're only looking at 20, 30 minutes of traffic each Sunday rather than the traffic that we're looking at, currently, which really isn't that bad. To speak on the benefit to the community, I know for a fact after hurricanes, as was mentioned, that there were houses in the neighborhood who had free of charge things fixed. I know that there is a spot there for police officers to stop and take a break and to have snacks, and that's provided by the church. As far as events, there's one huge fall event, and those lights are bright. I get that. We've set that up. We've torn that down. But other than that, you're talking about parents' night out where you drop off your kids for a couple hours. Surf camp is at the beach, obviously, and then there's a summer camp. So obviously I'm biased. Obviously I can't vote on this, but I am saying the current problem could be made even worse if it's not voted on properly tonight. So that's just my 2 cents on that, and I will not be voting, so.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion?
Yes, I live.
If we can keep it down in an audience for us, please, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, I live over here near the church over here on Magnolia Presbyterian Church, and I drive down the alley, and the buildings are 10 feet off the property line. And they have AA meetings there all the time. And I couldn't get a better neighbor than that church. They're so kind. We pitch in when hurricanes come. They help us. We work with them. And it's always been a great relationship. And now I've worked with this church over here, the Church of Christ over here on the corner, putting a shed up for them. And their property setbacks are exactly, I think, 6 or 7 feet on the side, and it's not a problem. I know that, you know, everybody is excited about it, and all I hear is the word parking. And the parking really shouldn't be brought into it right now, but the parking should be brought into it in the overall picture of this, campus here. And it will be if they expand it. They cannot expand that until the parking gets, taken care of. So I know that I have been in this R2 area for a long time, and our neighbors are churches, and we get along. The harmony of us, between the two of us, is great, and we like it. And I've never really had a problem like this. And no one complains about the parking. No one complains about it. They see the benefits. They weigh the benefits of what they're getting versus the parking on the street. Yeah, we have parking up and down the street. Of course we do. But at the end of the day, what we see, what we're getting is a lot. And they go over there, they fix bicycles. Over here, they work a thrift store. And that's just part of a community. It isn't something we need to take away. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, as I see this, I think the church as an organization is doing a wonderful job. And as you said, most of the churches are very outreaching and taking care of people. That's their function. That's great. That's not what we're looking at here. What we're looking at here is a zoning code. And a zoning code is not done, when you're the first house set in the community, you don't write a zoning code. It's not until after there's a lot of stuff built. And you have to take into account, in my opinion anyway, what's there. We heard earlier that there was no known history of why this special exception ever got added into the zoning code with the 35-foot setback. So we have to guess, we have to make our judgment. The only rational conclusion I come to, and appeals to me, is again the mass. If you have a relatively low-density neighborhood, you're going to have a lot of smaller houses, you're going to have a lot of single-story houses. Yep, you're going to have an occasional two-story house. One of the biggest things we've heard about in America over the last 20 years is knocking down little houses and building McMansions, which is exactly the same thing, because a McMansion would be allowed to be built 10 foot off the property line. Makes nobody happy. It destroys the continuity of the neighborhood doing that. And that's been proven over and over. So what we really, I think, have to decide on here is, one, we're making a text amendment that applies to the entire city for problems that may or may not even exist, and who knows, whatever they may be. And two, as I said earlier, the key word is, in my opinion, as a former builder and developer, is scale. If I have a neighborhood with all 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 square foot single-story houses that are nominally 14, 15 foot tall to the roof, there should be some setback from my property line to anything that's 35 foot, potential height of a building. Should it be 35 foot? Should it be 25 foot? Whatever. In some other municipalities I worked in, some of the setbacks were done on a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you were 20 foot from the property line, you could build 20 foot tall. 35 foot of property line, 35 foot maximum building, kind of makes sense into the scale argument. I think the church is doing a wonderful job, but as one of the other people said, now maybe just simply they've outgrown the footprint of that piece of property. So just my 2 cents in it now.
Thank you. Any additional thoughts? have one. I actually kind of wrote this while everyone's speaking. It came to my mind, but I was really impressed tonight with everyone, both for and against. We heard compelling and passionate testimonies tonight from both sides of this issue. I want to thank everyone for being civil. We're all neighbors, and we should continue to act like it. And not just in this particular issue, but every other issue that we have come before us in the city, whether it be the flooding issues or anything else. Like, we should continue to act civilly. And I'm proud to be a part of the community that leads by example in civility. So I just want to thank everybody. With that being said, churches are a pillar in our communities, as well as schools, and I'm a planner. That's what I do in my profession. And Bob kind of appealed to that to a certain degree whenever he mentioned planning principles and what we're taught. And part of that is an understanding of we are losing the amount of available land to be able to build, construct. Densities are going up for certain areas in our communities because they're realizing, look, we can't keep pushing out into the wetlands. We can't keep pushing out into these conservation areas. So we're going to have to start looking inwards. We have to look at infill. So I do understand the 10-foot seems awfully close, but also Babe James Center, if that can be 7.5 foot from your residential property line, then I can't help but go, well, 10 foot's even further away than what the Babe James could be right on your home. So I very much appreciate both issues. I won't lie, I came in this evening with one thought and am walking away with a different one. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. I appreciate it. If there's no further discussion and or questions, do I have a motion to recommend to the City Commission to approve ZT-7-25, proposed text amendment to the city's land development regulations? Now, just as a reminder to everybody, if we're making a recommendation to approve, you can vote yes, you want to approve it or recommend approval. You can vote no, which means you do not want to recommend approval. So just to be clear. Okay, do I have a motion?
Yes, I give you a motion to approve to the City Commission for the proposed text amendment.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Con, could you please call the roll vote?
Member Bean,
No.
Member Hall,
No.
Member Hodges,
Yes.
Member Yates,
No.
Chair Wheatcraft.
Yes.
Motion fails.
Okay, we will move on to A-0007-2025 at 125 Jungle Road. This is the review, and first, maybe we'll give it a minute and let everybody kind of move so we can hear each other. You want me to? Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and keep going. Okay, this is the review and first public hearing of a voluntary annexation, rezoning, and small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use map. City staff, do you have a report? What?
Okay, Mr. Chair. So the property owner has requested a voluntary annexation and a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, changing the current future land use from county urban medium intensity and a current county zoning of R4 urban single-family residential with an A attached for the airport height notification zone to a proposed future land use category of city medium density residential and a proposed zoning of city R2 single-family residential with an A attached for the airport height notification zone. So the site details, it contains approximately 0.45 acres. It's on the inside curve of Jungle Road between Otter Boulevard and State Road 44. It's currently an undeveloped parcel, but it is located near existing residential housing. So with that, the Planning Department recommends the Planning and Zoning Board to give a positive recommendation to the City Commission to approve the requested annexation, small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, changing the future land use category to city medium-density residential, and a rezoning to city R2, single-family residential with an A attached for the airport height notification zone. And that's a summary of the staff report. Subject to any questions the board members may have.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you. Is the applicant or representative present? Not seeing it. So at this time, we'll open up public participation. A 3-minute limitation will be imposed unless otherwise granted by the Planning and Zoning Board. Seeing no one coming forward, public participation is closed. I'd imagine nothing further from staff, no applicant here, discussion and/or questions by the board. Seeing none, do I have a motion to recommend to the City Commission to approve the overall annexation request, including the rezoning and proposed future land use?
I make a motion to recommend the approval to the City Commission for the annexation, small-scale, comprehensive plan amendment, and the rezoning for the request of 0.45 plus acres on Jungle Road between Otter Boulevard and State Road 44.
Thank you. Do I have a, thank you. Don, could you please call the roll vote?
Absolutely. Member Yates?
Yes.
Member Hodges?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Bean?
Yes.
Chair Wheatcraft?
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Okay, we'll move on to comments or statements by members of the board. Anything to say tonight? Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate being on here, you guys. It was very civil coming from school board meetings. This was extremely civil, both up here and down here. So I wanted to thank you guys for that.
Well,
And
you're
thank
more
everyone
welcome
who's
to
out
hang out
there.
anytime. Okay, reports and communications by the staff.
I just want to remind those of you who signed up for our board training coming up in September, you should be getting an email from WOVA, if you haven't already, WHOVA, I believe it is. That's just a reminder, and maybe you can sign up and get a schedule. Otherwise, if you have any questions about the upcoming training, please let me know. It's at a conference in Daytona that I have been planning for over a year with the American Planning Association here in the Florida chapter. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
I have a question, just pull on the board. Is anybody else I'm going. I don't know if anybody else is planning on going to that. I think it's the 16th.
There's one other person not here going.
Who's that?
John Causey.
I'll be there, but I'll be in a different training at that conference.
Okay.
Oh, I'm glad you got to go. You got into the...
Just the one day for
Yeah.
the AICP training.
Great. I'm glad you'll be there.
Thanks.
All right. That's all.
If there's nothing further, then we are adjourned.
No?